Hello, and welcome to Jason Cavness Experience. Our guest today is Jason Doudt. Jason, thanks for being here today.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks for having me.
So, softball question. What do you do for fun, or what are some of your hobbies?
Uh, I live in a nice community that's got a pretty good golf course. So I like golf when I can do it. Um, what's turned into more of a hobby is just furthering my knowledge on technology because I have my tech consulting business and I come from like an IT network consulting sales background. um, and just learning all the Web3 and new AI stuff, and just trying to wrap my head around that's been my new hobby, and it's a lot of fun.
So, how long have you been golfing? It's a pretty new hobby. You've been doing it for a while.
I played on my high school team for one season and really got into it. And I think there's some years I maybe play 10 to 20 times a year, but lately it's been maybe 3 to 5 times. Last couple of years with COVID and everything, it was, just make it to a driving range and just practice. But, I'm the type of golfer that likes to go out and have fun. I don't take it real serious. I like going with some friends and just having a good time and just enjoying the weather. And to me, it's relaxing.
So for you, the number of beers drunken is more important than the number of
Absolutely.
players.
Absolutely. That's right. It's how much fun you can have. It's
Yeah.
not, it's not, what's the score? I don't get that serious
That's
about
the thing about golf too. Like, if you like paying a fourth person, you can't play golf for everyone, right? Like, there's certain people like in my life, like there's no way I can imagine spending like 4 or 6 hours with them on a golf course, right? Like, no way. Like, you have to be dude, like be somebody personable, someone you like want to spend some time with, right?
it. Yeah, you can't. Yeah, I'm not the type of golfer that's going to go and just jump into a blind foursome that I don't know
Yeah, I
who
would
it
never,
is. Like
I would
I'm
never
going
do
with
that.
my friends.
Yeah, I would
I'm
never
going to
do
go with
that.
my friends because otherwise you get people too serious. They're breaking clubs and cussing and sweating and getting mad because they missed a birdie like they're on the PGA. And I'm like, man, we're just having a good time. It's here in DuPont. It's not
I know.
anything serious.
So in DuPont, we have home course,
I love the
the
home course.
JBLM one, and there's Chambers Bay down the road. You play all three of those, or
I'm no good at Chambers Bay's too hard.
yeah?
Home course,
Because Chambers Bay, for you don't know, that the U.S. Open was there like maybe 10 years ago, I think.
yeah, it's championship level skill. Like you have to have some skills to play well there. Home course is also challenging. It's
Yeah.
deceptively challenging. But I like that one. It's
Yeah.
close and it's easy. Um, yeah,
About the JBLM one, I think it's
I
called
haven't.
Eagles Pride.
Yeah, Eagles Pride. I haven't gone to that
You
one.
haven't? You
I
should
haven't
check it
tried that
out.
one. Yeah. I'm one of those ones where when I am able to play, I like to go several times to the same course
Okay.
just to get a feel
Know how the
for it.
grass is and the bounce and stuff. And
Otherwise, I might as well just bring a case of balls every time I go out because it's gonna go everywhere.
that's crazy. When was the last time you played golf?
Last summer.
Okay, it's been a while.
Last summer I haven't played yet this year. So
Okay.
last summer I played twice, went to the driving range once. I know with my day job, people go to Top Golf and
Yeah.
do outings, things like that. But yeah.
So here's a funny story for you. So back in the army, I was a captain career, right? So like once a month, it would be me, two other captains, and the colonel, football colonel, '06 Willie, me, Paul Hubbard, and Chuck Valentine. We play golf once a month, right? I think the first Saturday of the month, right? And we go like, I can remember the name of the golf course there was like, it was like American Korean Run. And I think the first tee was like maybe like 5 in the morning, right? So we were hit like 5 in the morning, maybe 6 in the morning, pretty like first tee, right? But the colonel want to, train us or mentor us, right? And so this one Saturday, we were up there, and I think we were on holes. We would play like, sometimes we play 9 holes, sometimes 18, right? This time we said, let's play 18 holes. We're pretty pumped up. Round four, the skies opened and it was hurricaning. It was rain everywhere. I mean, it was going sideways. And the colonel looked at us, y'all want to quit? And of course, we're not going to be no punks. No, so I'm going to quit. So we played like 9 holes in like torrential rainstorm,
You
right?
guys do like a Caddyshack
Yeah, it was a Caddyshack moment, right?
throwback.
I mean, a lot of like being like stupid, being like, I'm not gonna be a punk, right? I'm not gonna be a bitch in front of the colonel, right? You
Right.
probably do the same thing, right? But like, yeah, it was horrible, right? I mean, like, you know how you had the window screen up from the golf court? That was no help because it was like going left and right. It's like swirling around like no one else on a golf course. Man, if only would have tipped that stuff right. It
Yeah.
was hilarious, right?
I have a hard enough time when it's like overcast tracking my ball. If it goes far enough one way or another, I'll lose it. But let alone torrential downpour, that'd be crazy.
Yeah.
I'd be like, no, I'm done.
So you might not know this, but I think you do. Like a lot of people go out and they'll like buy $1,000 putter, or I can only golf in Callaway, or I can only golf in Nike. That shit doesn't matter, does it?
No,
Yeah.
not at all. I mean, that's one of the first things I learned when I was playing on our team is we all started with like practice clubs
Hmm.
because none of us were like super wealthy.
Yeah.
And so we were just a high school team that was like throw together in Indiana.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, there's your, you know, go back in this room and pick out all these, out of all these lost clubs, get your starter bag. And that's what we were playing with.
Yeah.
And, yeah, of course, if you're going to play amateur, you're going to play in some tournaments and you're really trying to get good at it. Sure. Equipment matters and that stuff matters. But for 95% of the players that are just going out to have a good time, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Like you're not going to go from a score of a 165 because you're using Callaway, right?
No, no, it takes lots of repetition. It takes lots of practice, the muscle memory. And,
Yeah.
that's why I said, if you don't, for me, if I can't play like 20 times a year, in the warm weather up here, if I can't play 20 times, I don't really care what my score is because I'm not going to improve upon it.
Yeah. I don't think a lot of people realize like how much it is to be a professional golfer because they're probably playing a tournament like at least once a week. It's like and they shoot like 18 holes a day, right?
More, yeah, sometimes more than that.
Yeah.
Like they're playing a lot of rounds of golf, a
Mhm.
lot, and you have to be in really good shape.
Yeah. Unless you're John Daly.
Yeah, depends on what kind of shape. But yeah, I can't imagine.
All the stories about him, you hear him like, drinking a whole bottle of bourbon and then we go winning a tournament or some crazy mess like that.
He's unique for sure. He's unique for sure.
Yeah. So we both live in DuPont, Washington. Let's talk about DuPont for a minute.
Okay.
So I know a lot of people call DuPont Pleasantville. It's like we kind of like stuck back in the 1950s. And I know a lot of people, and especially in old DuPont, they like have this like mindset, right? Like no more changes, no new stuff. Um, it's a good community too, right? One of my frustrations though is like all the people like, oh, it's great for kids, it's great for kids, right? You see kids ride on bicycles, but some of them jokers turn to be a teenager is like they're enemy not grata, right? It's like, what are these teenagers doing? Or you see on the Facebook group all the time. There's like burn pit down by the water. It must have been teenager. I see beer cans. Like, I know what if I was a teenager, I'd live down the water all the time, right?
Yeah, it's definitely I think for a oasis, I think for a community, I think they designed it well for it to kind of stand the test of time. Yeah, you're going to have certain ages that there's not much to do, so then they get into trouble. But as far as the neighborhood as a whole, there's two thing I didn't realize. So they most places have two homeowners associations. You live in an apartment or you live in a condo, you have a homeowners association, but then the whole Northwest Landing is a homeowners association. So the whole DuPont is a homeowners association. So what it means is there's lots of rules where there's no loitering. You don't have any of the riffraff. Very peaceful. The police department, I think, does a really good
Yeah.
job of patrolling. It's got good walkways. It's got a park. It's
Like
everything's within walking distance.
so many trails to walk through.
Yeah, so there's lots of if you're outdoorsy, you like walking your dog, or you have kids that want to get outside, it's perfect.
Yeah.
And you can let them, when my daughters live with me, they could go to, walk into Starbucks,
Yeah,
a
exactly.
mile away and Starbucks and not even worry about it and come back. And
Yeah, it is a very walkable city.
yeah, it's good. I like it. And I think it's good to keep it that way because I think if it gets too big, if it grows too much and they get outside of the concept, then it's going to turn into any other neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely don't want to be like Fife Junior, right?
Yeah. Well, I describe it like it's a gated community without the gates.
Yeah,
The way it's set up, the way it's designed.
it's almost like we're a hidden gem. Like we're all this other stuff around us. Like we're just isolated, right?
People don't know. People don't know, and we're really close to the freeway.
Yep, right
They've
there.
designed it where all the commercial stuff is is where anyone would go is right next to the freeway and all the housing's away from it. So you don't
Yeah.
have people driving through trying to get
No.
from one place to the next. Um, it's kind of tucked away. And there's also no destination. The one thing is that there's no big grocery store. There's nothing that
No.
draws people
No, there's not.
to DuPont. Like you need to be passing through
Yeah.
and stop to
Or
get
maybe there's a wreck,
Starbucks or
maybe
McDonald's.
there's a wreck on the highway and you got to go through DuPont because Google sends you that way.
Correct. But people live in DuPont and go shopping
Yeah.
elsewhere, go do stuff elsewhere. So my wife found it and we love it.
So I don't know how true this is, but when I first moved here a long time ago, someone told me that the McDonald's they built, they said they purposely not build like a McDonald's play place there. They didn't want any reason for people to bring their kids and play there and be in DuPont, right? They're like, come here, get your food, and get the fuck out.
Pretty much. Pretty much. And I've seen it, and almost that's all of DuPont, because I've seen people who don't live in DuPont that will pull up and park next to the park.
Yeah.
And within 30 minutes, 45 minutes, a police officer stopping by and like,
Yeah.
hey, what you doing?
Yeah.
And if you're not from here, you gotta, keep on
State your
keeping
business.
on. Yeah.
State your business.
So it's
I mean, that could be bad too, though. I mean, like being unwelcoming and stuff, Cause like one thing, like do that, like maybe they're going there and like buy, eat a meal at a restaurant, right? Now, like, man, I'm not fucking DuPont. Fuck this place, right?
yeah.
'Cause that's one thing I don't know. 'Cause I know a lot of DuPont complain about small business going out of business, like I don't know how true this is, but supposedly downtown DuPont is the same amount to lease an office space there as downtown Seattle,
It is very expensive.
which is
I
fucking
don't
insane.
know. I don't know why.
And so many businesses
It's
have gone out of business, like ice cream shops. This Ace just went out of business. It's just insane, right?
Yeah, unless you're a major like Starbucks,
Yeah,
McDonald's, things like that.
T-Mobile, Pizza Hut.
Unless you're in the main
Yeah,
things. Well, is it McFadden's? McNamara's.
McNamara,
McNamara's. They've stayed
but
around
they're
for a
under
little while.
Pirelli, so
And Pirelli, yeah,
they're,
Pirelli's
they're the
there.
same. They're the same business or franchise. Yeah,
Yeah, but they've stayed there. But
they're not going nowhere.
other
Yeah.
than that, I mean, I was surprised. I was like happy that we had like an Ace Hardware,
Mhm.
and I went there once like a year ago,
Yeah.
and just like a month ago, I was like, oh, I need something because I was to detail my car. Let me drive down there. I
They're
drive down,
gone.
it's all gone already.
Yeah.
I'm like, they went out of business.
Were you here when we had that cigar liquor store in DuPont?
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was right next to the teriyaki place.
Yeah. It used to be in the American Credit Union area. Then they moved across the street. Yeah. I really like that lady. I like the place. Then one day I went there, they had all these notices on the door. So that's during COVID. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, she transitioned that over to the she was doing the coffee shop before the
Oh yeah.
ice cream shop. She
Yeah.
moved from there. She was doing both.
She was doing both. Yeah. I forgot about that.
And then she did that. And then there's just not enough business. Well, then actually COVID happened. When COVID happened, I think that did it for most everything.
Yeah. It's hard to do business. And, there's all these meetings, let's figure something out. And then people said, like, well, let's, tell the owner of these buildings, if he doesn't lease it out, he gets higher tax, whatever. I'm like, that's communism, right? I mean, you have to let the free market do what it does, right? But it is unfortunate. I've seen so many businesses go out of business, right? And things like, man, this is going to stay, right? They used to have, man, it was like a smoothie shop, right? It was like hundreds of smoothies you can make. I can't remember the name of what it was. It was where the barber shop is now.
Okay.
It was in there.
Yeah, it was Emerald City Smoothie.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I should get on my phone, order on the app, coming home, driving home, and pick it up.
Yeah, but I mean, it would be great to have that there. But really, how many smoothies do you have to sell to pay the rent?
Yeah.
Let alone pay the people that are there like I said, you said, it is very expensive to commercial to do business there. And they make it that way just because they don't want to invite developers to come in and build a bunch of new stuff. And so there's the pros and cons, right? It's good because it keeps the city small. It keeps it, where not too many people are trying to build it out. But at the same time, if we want good smoothies, we have to go into Lakewood or go down into Lacey.
So we're going to talk about developers in a minute. But for that, like that ice cream place now, I think it's called Bliss Ice Cream.
Mhm.
I really hope they stay in business, but I don't see how they do, right? Because, this isn't like Phoenix, Arizona, Texas was hot 24/7, So So I don't know how they stay in business, like, from, like, I don't know, November to February, like, I don't think they get that much business in the summertime. Like, when I go to some place, a lot of kids in there eating, but man, I don't see how they survive. I hope I'm wrong, but
Yeah. I don't, I agree with you. It's nice in the summertime, but that's like 2, 3 months out of the year. It's not a, well, there's Cold Stone, right? Cold Stone, but they're always like in a strip mall around like a mall
yeah,
or around a bigger area. So there's places that draw a lot of people. We don't have that in DuPont. So I,
no,
I would hope that it stays around, but I don't,
yeah.
unfortunately.
One thing I like about, DuPont is, like, suppose, like, it's, excuse me, 33% like retired military, 33% active, like 30% like, regular people, right? So I think it's a good mix.
Hmm. Yeah. I've told some people that it's probably the highest concentration of legally owned weapons in the state
Oh, yeah.
if you're
Yeah.
not in the base.
Yeah, exactly right. So back to developers, have you seen what the developers are trying to do now in DuPont?
Mm-mm.
So they sent a so do you belong to that Facebook DuPont group?
I am, but I don't check it very often.
Okay. I check maybe
I'm
once
not
a
on
week.
social media very often.
And supposedly, so like maybe 3 or 4 years ago, this developer tried to come in and like try to like do development. And I think that's one of the reasons like the former mayor didn't win the election because he supported it. That's so that got get rid of. So now new developers coming in and on a kind of sneak check. So suppose he wants to build like a bunch of condominiums and like a shopping mall complex sort of thing, over by the home course on the back end. I know they've had a couple of meetings about it. And a lot of people are like, what is this? I thought we got killed this, right? What's going on, right? And so like pretty close getting approved. So I don't know how that's going to work out. On one hand, like I think we need more people, like more tax benefit, more tax people paying taxes, property tax. But then, and again, like man, like I'm not saying our traffic is bad, it's good, but man, can they handle it right? Can the schools handle it? Can the roads handle it?
Mhm.
Can the police department handle it? So I think there was like 100 condominiums and like, in the same building, like maybe like little shopping center, different things to do.
If it's like downtown, it would probably be okay because you're gonna have these one-off stores
Yeah.
that not aren't are mainly gonna cater to the
Yeah.
community,
This was like
not
on
so
the,
much drawing people from outside the community in,
yeah.
so that may be okay. I know that a few years ago, there was a thing that came through, about some development, but it was commercial
Mhm.
development that was in between the home course and like the Amazon fulfillment
So
center
this is about
back there.
this is
So
the
it's
same,
back
this
in
is the
that
same place,
section,
same place.
but they were going to do commercial. And the thing was that their path or the route that they were talking about the commercial was coming right down Center Drive.
Yeah.
And the reason they made that Wharf Drive
I remember that.
separate is because they didn't want trucks going down Center Drive.
Yeah. So this is a combination
So
commercial residential is a combination thing. I think that's what they're trying to get over the rules or whatever by doing like a double zone or something. I'm not really sure.
yeah, I know they asked for a vote on something and we said that we didn't, that the only way we would be for it is if the trucks had to go down
Yeah.
Wharf Road,
Uh-huh.
the other road that they made all the way around
Yeah.
and not come right down through the middle of DuPont. And then I think that kind of killed their idea.
Yeah. Well,
But
I think it's another developer just trying to do it now. So I mean, who knows, right?
yeah, it wouldn't be bad to have a high rise of apartments or condos, something in there.
Yeah. But my
But
fear is like people don't think through the consequences. Like, okay, there's 100 condominiums, probably 2 cars apiece. Half of them probably need to go to school. Like all that second, third order effect. Like, do we have the buses, the bus extra kids? All that kind of stuff. The extra car is gonna wear and tear on the road. I don't think anyone from the government or anyone else like really thinks those things through. Unfortunately.
yeah, I'm hoping I hear something more about it, and I'll probably go to one of the public meetings
Yeah.
just to find out
But this I know so where Patriots Landing is.
more.
So I know recently hopefully I get this right. I think Steilacoom Independent School District bought that land, right? And what they want to do is like put an elementary school right there, right? And it's like it's gonna get past them. People are like, okay, like how is this busing gonna work? Like when parents drop kids off at school, like what's gonna happen? It's a 2-lane road, right? Are they gonna pull in, pull out? How's it gonna affect traffic, right? And the people, oh my God, think about that, right? And then they got voted no. And so now they have now I think they bought the land before getting approval, right? So I have this land that may not ever be approved to be a school, elementary school, right?
Yeah, that is interesting. I mean, well, developers are developers. Like, hopefully they're smart enough to do the research and find out what they can do before
Yeah, I
they
think
do
we're
it.
learning they're
But
not. They see the potential money and like they
yeah,
think they pull people's eyes, right?
yeah. I think the community, DuPont community is on it though. I
Yeah.
mean, people
Oh
are
yeah.
really responsive about,
DuPont don't fuck around. Like,
yeah, no, they're nothing's gonna slip through.
no,
They have too many retirees that sit around all day
doing nothing. Yeah.
reading stuff. So as soon as something changes,
Yeah.
they get,
They're like, matter of fact, with the new development, somebody did a whole thesis on like, if they put the development there, how it's going to affect the Sequally Creek and affect water and blah, 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 all this, environmental scientific stuff. Like, damn.
yeah, they have time on their hands. You and I are too busy to mess with that. So we just need to get the summary version.
Yeah. But DuPont's are pretty good. So one more story about DuPont, we move on. So it's funny how DuPont people are kind of like, like, what's the word? I can't think of the word they're looking for, but like a few years ago during Halloween, you know how back in the day, like you would like egg cars, right? It's a prank, whatever, no harm funded. So like, so there's one Halloween, like there's like 20 cars got egg, right? And they were like complaining, oh my goodness, this is a crime spree. Like, we need the police chief to go to Silicon High School and interrogate all the high school people. 'Cause I know it's a prank, blah, 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 blah. And someone put on there, okay, everyone calm down. We live in DuPont, not Lakewood. Like, so what? You got egg in your car, right? Now, in the defense, back there, you like just maybe run or throw eggs at cars. So these 20 cars, they were fucking targeted, right? So the 20 cars, like in like different places or whatever. And it was like each car had like at least 2 cartons of egg thrown at it, right?
Oh, that's different.
Yeah, it was different, right? So okay, I get it. I get it now, right? It's like this lady took a picture. The egg was so thick on her car, right? It was like ridiculous, right? Okay, I get it now. I probably want the police chief to interrogate some kids too, right?
Yeah, 1 or 2 eggs, okay.
These like whole
You're being a
cart,
prankster, but
these whole
if you're
cars.
doing whole like Costco cartons of
Yeah.
eggs on
Okay, this is a vendetta
stuff,
right
then
here.
yeah, nah,
Yeah,
this is too much. Yeah,
yeah. So
I can
stuff
see
like
them looking into
yeah, nice. So how long were you in the Navy?
I was in the Navy just 4 years, right after high school. I did I did the delayed entry program. So I knew right away I wanted to get the heck out of Indiana and see more of the world. And so my junior summer before my senior year, I signed up, and then I kind of worked with the recruiting office, and I came in as the E2, like right. I think technically you can't be an E2 in boot camp, but like as soon as boot camp was over, I was automatically E2, and then 90 days later, E3. And then it was back. So I was during like the Gulf War during that, like 88 to 92. So there were people that were retiring, too many people, and they were retiring like 3/4 pay and getting out 15 years
Yeah.
versus 20. But everyone was retiring. A lot of them retiring enlisted were E6, E7, E8. And here I am, my first year in as the E4, and I'm seeing what they're making, and I'm like, I'm not doing this for 20 years, knowing that, I'd want to become an officer or move up or get an education. Like, I'm not going to stay um, in this role. But I was a corpsman, I wanted to figure out, is medical field something I want to do? And, I love medicine and medical field, just for me.
That's one thing I think the military always gets wrong. Like they're always like, especially in our army. I know it's like every other branch. Like they were like, okay, if we have too many people in, and then of course too many people out, and within a year, oh, see, we have no people. Let's get more people, right? It's like they always can never get that balance right. Like, dude, like this, you have too many people now. That's like the natural thing, like work itself out, right? You
Mm-hmm.
know?
Yeah, they were on a mission to get a lot of people out of certain,
Yeah,
and it was also they encouraged you based on what your MLS,
yeah,
what your rate was or what you were doing, because if they're overloaded. Because for corpsman, the only way I could go to E5 is if I went to sea duty or I did
yeah,
something, went to a school,
yeah,
um, to year long school. Then okay, you get E5, but you're never you could take the test and pass it
yeah,
and get all your bonus points and still not be
yeah,
promoted. And so, and I was, I back then I was pretty hard headed. Now I do appreciate, the Navy for, I think, in my opinion, I think all people out of high school should at least spend a couple years in the military
Yeah, I agree.
just to get a sense of
At least get your ass. Yeah.
urgency, a sense of, honor and duty and what it means to do a job right,
If nothing else, get your ass out your neighborhood and go visit a different part of the
see
country,
other
different culture.
people
Yeah.
and different things, and just it was great. I think if I would have just went into college, I would have partied and screwed my life up and went down a different path. So it definitely caught me on the right path. But 4 years in, I was in during wartime. Um, it was, I still had my good conduct award, and I wanted to get into, if I was going to stay, I wanted to get into like search and rescue,
Yeah.
SEAL, buds, go try to do that. Well, I'm newly married, had a son, and my wife at the time was like, "Yeah, no, you're not doing that. You're getting out.
Yeah.
Re-up and go to buds or search and rescue and do this other stuff." And so I
And,
said, "Okay."
yeah. And for those who don't know, the Good Conduct Medal is basically the military's version of you came to work on time every day.
Came to work on time and stayed out of trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're stayed out of
Which is
trouble.
very fucking hard to do in the military.
Sometimes I was finding it more challenging, so I said, "I better get out and keep it."
So can you tell us anything about any of your Navy adventures without compromising any national security secrets?
So I wasn't in any kind of like major combat operations. So that was, you know, I was just a corpsman. I was at the hospital for 2 years, and then I was on the USS Carl Vinson aircraft carrier for 2 years, which was actually in dry dock. So, the only excitement we had was when the Gulf War was ramping up, and there was a race between the East Coast Admiral and the West Coast Admiral on which hospital ship was going to go support the Gulf. And so it was the USS Mercy is the hospital ship here on the West Coast. And so they scrambled everybody and deployed everybody down there. They had way too many people trying to get the ship ready.
Just so these admirals get the fucking
So we went out into we call it the Bay tour. So we went into San Francisco Bay. It broke down, and we were there for like a week trying to get it fixed and retooled. And then it turned out that the East Coast ship, I forget that name, that's the one that actually made it and supported. And so they just sent us back. So that was the only real excitement. Once a year, I think we would do some exercises with Lewis McCord, the field medic course, and we'd do some stuff there, some joint things, which was fun. But yeah, it was pretty uneventful. It brought me from Indiana to the Seattle area, Bremerton. I lived in the Seattle area. Took the ferry across, and so I've been out here since 89.
Been for a while.
Yeah, I've been out here for a while.
You're a Washingtonian now.
Yeah, I've lived here for sure longer than I lived in Indiana. So it's just beautiful out here.
Yeah, when it's nice, it's nice. But when it's not, it's not.
I'm getting to the age where I'm starting to see the wisdom in finding someplace that's sunny more of the year.
Yeah, like maybe you go to Mexico for December, January, or do something like that. Or
I definitely am starting to understand the what's it called? The snowbirds. The people in the wintertime that go down to Arizona or Florida, whatever, and stay there and then come back.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, that now it's starting to make sense now. I'm getting to that age where it's like, okay, I can see that.
So Jason, what is tech consulting?
Tech consulting, means a lot of things to a lot of different people. But for me and what we think is we help solve problems that are technical in nature. And we specifically focus in on custom software development, AI integration, things that help improve process flows. As we're focused on small to medium-sized companies. So ones that don't have maybe the big budget for, a big consulting firm like Capgemini or Accenture or somebody to come in and fix all these problems and do all this stuff. We try to work with folks as a budget. We're trying to see some real progress of efficiencies and saving money and helping them grow and improve. Um, and so it's just basically problem solving, and that could look a lot of different ways. Um, I've gotten a lot of advice from different people that say hyper focus on this one thing and do this one thing really, really good. Um, and we've done that just in like custom software development and database AI integration type stuff. So we're in the application front end side of, we're not on the infrastructure side. We're not doing IT, networking, consulting, that type of stuff. Um, we don't get into cybersecurity or like that. There's some niches there that we stay away from. So
When you say small business, do you mean based on number of people or revenue?
it could be both. There's some small technical companies that have less than 50 employees that have pretty big revenue. Um, the way I describe it is you're large enough to have an IT department or at least one person that's designated to deal with your everything technical. And if that, medium size, maybe up to like 500 employees. Um, I usually say 50 to 500 employees, but large enough that you have someone designated to handle your IT. And typically in those IT departments, the way most IT departments work is that they are kind of bogged down with the day-to-day normal projects. They don't usually have a lot of time to innovate. And, if there is any projects outside of what their normal growth path is, usually it doesn't meet budget or it's difficult to get it approved in the budget. So we have ways that we can come in at least to lower that cost.
And what's your advice for someone to pick the right software development company for them?
That that's a real good question. And I would definitely make sure that whoever's managing the project and whoever is the thought leader behind the project is forward thinking. I don't know how many clients I've talked to and people we've talked to that have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on a solution, a custom solution that either couldn't get finished or by the time that it's close to being finished, the technology shifted and it's not as efficient or as effective because they weren't thinking about what's ahead. And I think that's one of the things that most of my team, we're really trying to wrap our head around the Web3, blockchain, um, tokenization of assets, smart contracts, AI integration, things like that, that, we may not do it, but we know that's where technology is going. And if we know where it's going and we look at where our client is and they say, this is our long-term goal, a lot of times they're asking for something that they aren't ready for yet. And so what we're saying is, okay, this is where you want to get, but you're here. So let's do a holistic roadmap of what that may look like so that what we build here is positioned for the next thing, positioned for the next thing. So instead of a rip and replace, thinking or methodology, it's we're tweaking, we're modifying, we're adding new features versus, oh, we designed this completely wrong and now this new thing we have to start over and design it a different way. So I think for the clients, if you're interviewing a consultant, a technical consulting company, or you want to look to do some custom work or outsource some work, how is their solution aligning with your long-term goal? Do they understand what you're trying to accomplish as a company long-term? And are they providing a solution that would not be a rip and replace 3 years, 5 years, as fast as technology is advancing? So it really takes a good amount of discovery. It takes a good amount of research and really understanding the client's business and have experience in that and saying, okay, based on what you're telling me, here's where you want to go. We're on that same page and this is a long-term goal. Here are the solutions we believe get you there. And this is why. And you need to be able to answer the why.
So how do you deal with this? Like, suppose someone comes to you and they say, "Hey, I want you to build me something that will increase revenue for grocery stores." Like, obviously, you need more detail on that, right? So how do you like? 'Cause a lot of like regular people like have no idea how to talk and develop it. Like they have no idea like user stories. They have no idea like schematics. Like how do you deal with that?
So when you just use that as an example, they want to increase revenue. Well, there's lots of ways you can increase revenue. So is that are your internal processes not as efficient as they could be? Um, are we looking at internal policies and processes and technology that's used internally that's just your own infrastructure, your own how you communicate and do things interdepartment, you know? Or is it technologies that's used to interact with your client, your end user, and improving that, either efficiencies or productivity or a combination of both? And so we typically start with trying to understand the landscape. So first we do a thorough discovery, understand the landscape of what are we dealing with, what are important issues, what are the known problems, what are the known pain points, the known inefficiencies, and once we get the whole picture and we understand from each department what's important to them and what they're trying to accomplish, we talk to the C-suite. This is our overall vision of where we're trying to go. We may uncover some unrealized problems that the left hand doesn't know the right hand's doing, and there's something in the middle that's causing a problem. When we look at the whole picture, we can actually step back and say, okay, what's going to be some good solutions? And then we try to systematically present solutions that will step by step, walk them into the direction they want to go.
So how about this instance? Like, suppose y'all agree with the build, you have it 95% built, and they come back, "Oh, I know I said I wanted this, but now I'll make this one small change," right? But that's
That's
small.
that's
But
that's through
that's
the whole process.
okay.
There's not a client that doesn't come in,
Okay.
and I'm sure if any of the developers and other CEOs of tech consulting companies are watching this podcast or like laughing, like that happens all
All
the
the time.
time.
So how do you deal with that? I mean, like, do you say, "Hey, hey, client, if I do this, is gonna add this much to the end cost at this time," or
The right business answer is that you've designed an agreement that has clearly defined the scope of the work and clearly defines what's out of scope and how out of scope changes and additions are going to be dealt with monetarily. Now, depends on how savvy those decision makers your client is.
Mhm.
If your client isn't real tech savvy and they want to do these changes, but they really don't understand the impact of what that's going to do to the budget, the timeline, and everything else, um, you have to be patient and you have to be a teacher and you have to be able to communicate well and explain, here's what you're doing to the project. This is what we agreed to. This change means this, this, and this. Is
Yeah.
this really the change that you want to make?
Yeah.
And is this a priority? And, I think, that is what I think birthed the agile methodology, the scrum methodology and project management is, that you're being able to start a project, but you're flexible to change. You're not stuck that this is the way it has to go all the way to the end. There's changes are made and you have to start all the way back over again. So you do little bits, you test and say, is this the right way to go? Are you happy with the direction? Do we need anything different? If we do need to make changes, let's make it now because it's less cost effective and we can do that and pivot slightly. And so that's how we kind of address it. But that's a constant. I don't think it's just part of the business. I think if you get frustrated because a client is requesting a change order
Yeah.
all the time, then you're in the wrong business
Okay.
because it just happens. I mean, it's the way ideas, think about it. How many, we can look at whether you like Windows or not. Windows operating system is a pretty good operating system. How many iterations have they made? When it started, how's it progressed, right? So no one thought of the end product from the beginning and said, okay, it's going to be wonderful without any changes or any upgrades or anything. It's just perfect. So everything is constant change, constant upgrade, constant improvement. There is no such thing as we're going to make it. It's going to be perfect. And we're just going to walk away.
When a client comes to you, what should they have? Should they just have an idea on a napkin? They have the UX design already done, schematics done? Like, what's your looking for?
We can help with any stage of that. We've worked with, I think 3 of our clients this last year have been in various stages of startup founders that one's got a concept and just trying to get some prototype built. Some are, we got the prototype and we just need to increase our staff on our development team. Um, Others are, we need a little bit more direction because we need to now shift and build this out. So we need this specialty. So we've kind of helped in different stages of these projects. So um, I think we're open. I mean, it doesn't cost anything to talk about an idea and how would you approach this and give some, advice. Uh, our whole hope is that our approach means that you can maybe realize, get your idea into a prototype or a working model, an MVP, minimal viable product, 10 to $30,000 versus, 50 to $100,000. And so that way it's less money to get your idea to a point that you can get users to give feedback. And if it's really attractive, then you can spend more money or raise more money into building out those features.
So two-part question. First part is like, does the tech stack matter at all? And do you prefer for the client to pick the tech stack, or do you prefer to pick the tech stack or a combination?
So tech stack matters because you could pick the wrong tech stack, the outcome and what it's going to do determines, are you going to have to rip and replace it or is it just an adjustment? So that matters. Full disclosure, I'm not a developer. My coding is, HTML, some basic JavaScript, CSS a little bit. I'm more design, sales, the consulting side of it. But I do know enough to say that the tech stack matters. I like to believe that, you know, we should rely on our solution architect that we bring in to design the solution. We make sure that we've given the solution architect the right parameters, the right information, and their recommendation based on the outcomes that we wanted is what we should go with. I always think that mistakes are made because there's not enough questions asked in the beginning. There's not a thorough knowledge of where is this really trying to go. And the goal has been moved too close. It's like, we just need to get here. And I'm always asking, like, well, where do you want to be in 5 years? It's fine if you just do this, but if you're not trying to see how this fits into the bigger picture, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be on the wrong mark. And I read this in a book somewhere that it's kind of like climbing rungs on a ladder. And if you're only focused on the rung on the ladder, when you get to the top, you may realize you're on the wrong wall. Like you're not even on the wrong wall. You went up a ladder, but you're not even where you wanted to go. So I think, I know there's clients out there that are, yep, we've spent money on that. And we understand that. And so I think going into it, it's great that people have ideas. Let's try to get your idea built and realized in a usable way, as cheap as possible. So you can, I think that's why a lot of things fail, is because they put too much money into a bad idea or an idea that wasn't fully vetted and they've used up all the money. But instead of 100,000, if you can get that for 10 or 15,000, now you can either iterate on that idea and improve it really well before it gets out there, so it has longer market stability. Or you may realize something after that's done. Oh, maybe this isn't the best product, but I have like $85,000 more dollars that I can put towards this other idea that this kind of hatched, and now we can morph this into something better.
So best case scenario, how should a developer, CTO, design person, product manager work together?
Lots of communication. Lots of communication and transparency. And so if we are talking about like within a company, and an IT department that they're trying to build something internally or improve some internal process. Well, of course, you have corporate hierarchy, the CTO, and everybody has their role. If you are a founder and you're trying to get your idea built, you're going to have a product owner. Someone's going to own the end result of what you're trying to accomplish. You're going to have a project manager that's going to manage the team, the dev team. You're going to have a solution architect that's going to, decide what tech stack, how this is going to be built, how many people we need, what specials do we need? Do we need front end, back end, full stack? What technologies are we using, and what specialists do we need to bring this in, and where do we get them, and how much experience do we need? So they put all that together, and then they just communicate. And then usually from the business side, obviously I'm communicating with the team, make sure they're happy, communicating with the client, sitting in meetings, making sure that it's being delivered as instructed or as it's supposed to. And if not, what do we need to do to fix it or change it?
So I'm guessing a developer will either work for the CTO or the lead developer. Who does the designer usually work for?
They all work in the way we run it. We have everybody working for everyone on the dev team. So you're going to have your like UX, UI designer. Everybody's working for the project manager of that team that then answers to the product owner that's representing the customer of what's needed, because so the project manager between the product owner, it's kind of that hierarchy. So the developers, the technical people, the designers, they're all part of the team, and they all kind of, and the way we set up, they all report to the project manager who
Okay.
manages the whole thing. And then that project manager works with, the product owner, which is usually on the client side, that is saying, yes, this is what, this isn't.
What's the max numbers of clients you can handle right now?
We're really a really small team. The maximum we can onboard is about, one new client a month.
Okay.
And so when we started this, for me, this is a retirement play. This is a thing I want to do for long term. So we didn't have like a short term, we got to reach a certain point in a year or 2 years or 3 years. If we don't, we're just shutting the door.
So this is more of a small business versus a tech startup, right?
Right. This is we are growing this consulting company to continue forever. If, we get busier, we can grow. Now, you say, well, what's the comparison? Obviously, the top is going to be your Deloitte's, your Accentures, your Capgemini's, those, you get into that level. We're just starting. But again, I don't have a timeline on it. Like, I plan on doing this for the next, hopefully 50 plus years, however long I'm on this planet. So, we want to do it right. We want to, learn and develop and implement the right tools and the right systems, and we don't want to rush it. And so we're literally kind of, I don't know what the old, I don't know if it was E.F. Hutton or Charles Schwab or somebody back in the day was like, we're building it one client at a time. Whatever that, commercial was, that's kind of what we're doing. We're kind of just building one client at a time, get one project done, making sure that's done well, and move on to the next one. So we're talking to a few clients, but again, we're not trying to pressure them. I think there's also an element of, I think clients have bought into the idea of a project that's probably a bad project and they shouldn't have gotten into it in the first place, and then are unhappy just because they were sold an idea from the technical consultant. Oh, this is what you need. And then you get halfway through it, and then it's like, yeah, we don't need this anymore. Wasted a bunch of money. We don't want to. So we'd rather make sure you're really comfortable with what you're doing. Make sure it really sinks in. It's really going to be a benefit to you. Otherwise, we don't.
Is there really a difference? Is there any difference in like talent, skill, anything else between like US developers and offshore developers besides the price point?
There's all kinds of differences. I think, um, I think the first thing you do is understand your budget. because the budget is what drives everything. And then within that budget, how can you get the best talent for the money? And and that could be literally anywhere in the world. There is great talent here in the US onshore, and there's a variety of different price points. It might mean that, you know, maybe you're wanting a time zone, you want to get a little bit better discount. And so you're going to Latin America or Central America, you're going Mexico South. Um, so you have a time zone, same time zone, similar time zone, um, not a problem. Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe time zone doesn't matter. There's 60+% of all software is developed and outsourced to India, Pakistan, the Philippines. And there are great developers there. There's great developers in Ukraine and Eastern Europe and Europe. And I mean, there's great developers everywhere. That I think there's project managers out there trying to build a team and put that together. The hard part is the time, how much time it takes and how much effort it takes to find the right skill set for what you're looking for. And so we try to have partners that may help us streamline some of our, sourcing of talent. And so, because you can have developers that look good on paper, they even test good. But when you get into the culture of a team and a project, and as a team, the project needs to shift. And I'll give you an example. So if you have a full stack developer and maybe their expertise is more on the front end, but they've said, hey, we're full stack, I know back end, and I've tested okay, and I know the back end. Well, they get on that project and the project manager says, hey, we need to focus more on the back end. So we need to move resources over to work on the database side of things. We want you to stop doing this for right now. We want to pivot to this. And you're 6 months into a project and they're like, yeah, no, I only do front end. Well, you tested it and you said, yeah, but I don't know. And we're like, really? And now you have to find somebody else. So I know that anyone's listening who's like a technical staffing recruiter or in the technical staffing, and that's all that they do. It's like shaking their head like, yep, happens all the time. So if you don't have that skill set or don't have that time to invest in that, it's good to outsource that to a company that does have those connections that can do that for you. It's going to save you time and energy and frustration to make sure you have fully vetted technical staff on your team. So
I think it's a challenge for everyone, right? Just not developers. I think I probably get blasted for saying this. Like, I think too many developers, marketers, well, let's say like too many fill in the blank think they're better than they are, right? I mean, too many people think they're the bee's knees, so to speak. And like, no, are you really like, like I know like developers, like they're always, building something on GitHub. They never finish it, right? Or I know like used car salesmen, like never sell a car, right? It's like,
I think that's everybody. I mean,
it is, but we're saying that like,
everyone tries to say everyone tries to put their best foot forward and they're trying to get a job.
but it has to be some fucking,
and
there has to be some kind of truth to it, right?
Yeah, there definitely has to be truth.
Like you can't say you're an expert Python coder and you've only taken a Python 101 class, right? I think too many developers, like, give them the tech stack. The tech stack says, I've never done it, but I can learn that in a couple of days. Are you sure you can learn that in a couple of days? Are you sure about that, guy?
Some can't.
I mean, some can. Don't be wrong.
So yeah, I've worked with some developers.
So how do you get through all the bullshit?
Extremely brilliant, and it blows me away on how their mind works and they can learn stuff extremely fast. The one thing I can say is you're not getting that talent for cheap.
Oh no. Oh, definitely not.
Period. Just don't even think about it.
No.
Don't think you're going to get somebody that is that brilliant.
Developers definitely know their value. Ain't no doubt about that.
You're going to get, more times than not, you get kind of what you pay for. There is a lot, and I think, true developers will clap at this, but I think AI has done more to hurt development, true development, than make it better, because I think it's made software engineers lazier, though, at least the junior ones. You know, the guys that have been banging out code line by line and know it inside and out. That's not how the junior devs out of college or technical school are developing. Like, they're understanding the concept, a little bit of language, and they're throwing into Chat GPT or some sort of AI thing to help write the rest of the code. And one of our clients, one of our former clients, who I have a lot of respect for, they do an amazing job of um, a code test that's live, that isn't, they can't use any help, and they need to just talk through and think through the problem. So back end is a lot of mathematics and analytics. And so, are you really strong in math? Can you problem solve? So the CTO will walk through, you know, with the developer problem, and they'll start with a simple problem. When it's, you know, solve this, they'll solve it. Okay, if we change this, and this, now solve it, makes it a little bit more complicated. And so how deep can that developer go in their logic and their thinking to solve the problem?
And with no help.
With no help, they're just having a conversation.
Isn't that an
and
unfair
walking
test,
through it.
right? Because they're doing for real when they be using help.
No, because they need to know it. Because they need to know if it's right or wrong. I
Yeah.
mean, if you're dealing with a massive database and you're off a little bit, you're screwing a lot of things up. And so it's, no, I think it's a brilliant way. And I think, I believe if you're a developer and you love code, you should really embrace that craft, and only use AI tools to speed up the development, not to do your work for you. Like, if you know, do the thinking, and then have it do the mundane work to just put it there, and then know that you can check it over and find, okay, nope, this is wrong. But I think we've seen too many junior devs that have been doing one thing for 8 years, and they say they're a senior dev just because they've been doing that one thing for 8 years. And it's like, really,
and
no.
there's that too, yeah.
Like, no, you're not a senior dev.
I'm a senior dev now. I'm a full stack engineer.
Yeah, you're a senior at doing that one thing at that one place, and that's it. But when it comes to the world of where's your skill set, no, you're not.
Here's a question for you. Let's put you got a hire developer, right? There's 3 of them. They're all like, every test, they're pretty equal, right? I mean, there's really they're all equal, right? Same sex, same everything, same age, whatever. But one is from Coding Academy. One, let me rephrase that. One's from an average coding academy, one's from an average college, a 4-year degree, and one is a graduate of YouTube University. Which one are you picking?
So, why I believe in higher education, and I believe that there's some benefit to that, I would actually lean to the one that's got the best attitude, and how they're approaching the problem and how they approach their work. And just, you know, not knowing, obviously the situation is hypothetical, I would probably say that the YouTube developer might actually have the best attitude, because they did it on their own. They took initiative, and they're probably naturally curious, and this is what they do for fun. It's a hobby. They spend 60 hours a week trying to figure this stuff out, versus someone who their mom or dad told them to go to college, and they got this engineer degree, and they kind of hate it, but they're doing it, and, you know, their attitude sucks.
Yeah. So change the subject, but we'll go back to tech in a minute.
Sure.
For sales, is there a different approach between B2B sales versus other sales, or sales, basically sales, regardless of what the thing is?
Sales is very different. And I think if I think if someone says sales is the same, no matter if you're selling knives or vacuum cleaners door to door, or if you're selling Girl Scout cookies, or you're uh, consulting with a Fortune 500 company on a complete multi-million-dollar software deal, or changing out their infrastructure to 1,000 locations across the country or across the world, um, those are very different and very different approaches, and it's not the same. And I think for me, in my mindset, you can read books, Challenger Sale, Medic, MEDDICC is the book that is a methodology that a lot of strategic enterprise level sales and consulting is kind of following. There's a lot of different books that kind of help you become a better salesperson or consultant. But for me, in my mind, the professionalism transitions from sales to consulting when what you're selling is not transaction, and what you're selling is a solution that takes buy-in from multiple people. You're just talking to one person and you're selling them this one thing as transaction. You buy it for X amount of dollars. That's sales. Because it's just transactional, it really doesn't matter. But if you're building a relationship, if you have more people involved, then it's not a thing of like, oh, let me put together a pitch and sell you this and see if you want it. It's understanding that client's business, understanding what that client is trying to accomplish, what they're trying to do, where they're trying to go with their company, and then creating some solutions based on that and letting the client decide what's best for them without any manipulation, without any, trickery or, smoke and mirrors to get them to do one thing over the other. It's really what is going to be best for you. And so it's taking it from a transactional sales mindset to presenting successful solutions that the customer wants to buy from you, that the client wants to buy. And they're in control of deciding, okay, I want option A is going to be the best for us.
When you're doing sales, how often should you follow up? Should you be like, okay, I'll follow up with Michael Jones 3 times. Y'all sales will talk to me. Or do you keep on following up until the person tells you no?
Following up as far as prospects,
Yeah.
like getting new business.
Yeah.
The post COVID, the rule of thumb is, really you need to do what's called an omni-channel approach, right? So you're not just doing one thing to reach out and you're doing it over and over and over again. You're doing email, you're doing LinkedIn, social media, phone calls, finding mutual events that you can go and, interact with. And you're doing that not just to the one decision maker, but you're doing it with different people in the company, because there's different people that can influence, that you can get through the door. And I think the old school, is like throw a yellow pages at you and dial for dollars and just keep dialing until you get somebody. That's the old school way of sales and prospecting, and that's just garbage now. It's are you putting some thought behind it? Are you understanding the organizational structure? Are you considerate of people's time that you're interacting with? They're busy. They're C-level executives that have a million things to do. They're working 60 plus hours a week, and their time is valuable. So, are you writing this long? It's funny to me because you put CEO on your, LinkedIn profile, and people send me emails all the time. There's this
All the time.
freaking long book that I get the one line and I'm like, yeah, I don't got time for that.
Yeah. That's my thing. Like,
And if you send it to me 2 or 3 times, I'll just spam it and I don't even know what you're talking about.
yeah.
Because so I personally recommend short, sweet, be direct, very clear, don't be real wordy, and be transparent. Say, here's who I am. Here's what I want to talk to you about. When do you have time? And,
Yeah.
and just do that. And then maybe connect on LinkedIn, figure out what they're interested about. Chances are the person that you want to talk to or someone from that company is going to some sort of event, public event that you would have mutual interest. So make it a point to go to that event and talk to them or participate in that event. And so they get to know you. And after you've done this omni-channel approach, and I've heard several different trainings on 18 to 21 to 28 times over a 45-day period to try to connect with a company, different angle. Like that's the level of effort you should do before you stop. And I'm in this day and age when you have opt out and people can just instantly put your email into a blacklist that they don't even get the emails because their system now is blocking.
Yeah.
Right. So you definitely, those that spam and I know there's a big push on AI, automated marketing and all this stuff, lead gen, that really no one is behind it, but AI is just constantly barraging people with all of this stuff. That to me is just flooding the system with garbage.
Yeah. I know me, whenever I get a message, either email link or whatever, and it's like 20 paragraphs, single space, I don't want to read. I just delete it. Like because I can't read all that mess, right? My eyes don't. I need like broken down, like double space, or at least paragraphs, like 2-3 sentences, paragraph break, 2-3 sentence paragraph break. This like 10,000 words, like single space. Yeah, I can't fuck with that.
No, no, people don't have time. I mean, I think people, salespeople, or when you're trying to prospect with a client, don't realize that that person, if they're a decision maker for their company, probably gets several hundred emails a day.
Yeah,
And they literally don't have the time to do their job and go through their email by reading every single email all the way through.
no,
Just, it doesn't happen anymore. There's no way to do that. So you need to be smart. I have so many, I read the first couple lines and I'm like, yeah, you don't even know what I do.
and what kills me, like I'll get an email, it'll be like, "Hi, Jason, we do this and this," or something. It'll be like John Brown, no company, no nothing. Like I don't know the fuck you do. There's no social proof.
Yeah.
Like, are you on LinkedIn? Like, what,
That's
like,
block and spam.
yeah,
That's what that is.
yeah,
That's like, yeah, I'm not, you shouldn't hide who you're with. You should be pretty transparent.
yeah,
You should be like, I understand your time's busy. I'm going to be
yeah,
respectful of your time. And I only ask literally for like just a few minute conversation
yeah,
that I can, if they're going to take 5 minutes out of their day to set up a quick virtual meeting
yeah,
and just real quick, what's important to you?
yeah,
Here's what I'm about. I'm here to help and support you. Is there anything in the next 12 months? And that's the other thing is I put my time horizon out over the budget year or the next 2 years, right? If we're already into this year's budget may already be set. And nothing new is going to happen this year. It's
yeah,
all about what's happening next year. So, okay, when do you review your budget?
yeah,
So I always say, before that budget is set for either this year or next year, can we get 5-10 minutes?
yeah. Like build a relationship, so to speak.
Just 5 or 10 minutes. And you know what? In that meeting, I stick to that 5 or 10 minutes.
Yeah,
Even if the call's going well and they keep wanting to ask questions and talking, I'm like, hey, I promise you, I just wanted 5 or 10 minutes. It does sound like there's some interest here. It does sound like there's some things we could do. Could we schedule another half hour
yeah,
and we could pull in some other people maybe and have a more robust conversation? And they appreciate that because I'm respecting their time. They're not, I'm not, oh, okay, 5 minutes, and then it turns into an hour and a half.
yeah.
And then it's like, what happens is that executive at the end is like, this guy tricked me into talking, said 5 minutes.
Even though it was him.
Yeah. And then it's not, yeah. And then if they're not going to move forward, now they're late for their other meeting and now you've created problems and, you just have to stick to what you say you're going to do.
How often do you use the phone, so to speak? Either like actually cold calling someone you don't know, or using the phone like maybe calling like a warm lead. How integral is the phone to your sales process?
Because I'm focused, we're here in Seattle general area and the Pacific, focused on like the West Coast for the most part. But anywhere in the US, I would call as part of, I would shoot an email, connect with LinkedIn, do some research, understand about the company, maybe email 2 or 3 or 4 people that would be in management leadership and connect with them on LinkedIn or social media. And then I would follow up with a phone call, but I'd space it out after a few days because chances are they've read it. They didn't need anything, but I can reference that in my phone call. Like, hey, I've sent you an email. I connected with you on LinkedIn. I was just seeing if I can get a couple minutes of your time to see if we can put something on the calendar sometime this year. Doesn't have to be right now. And when there's no sense of urgency in your voice and like, oh, can we meet, you know, tomorrow at 2 o'clock or Thursday at 4, give them a choice. Well, if it's in this a week and they're busy for the next month, the answer is going to be no. And that's
Yeah.
it. And now you've lost your
Yeah,
opportunity.
that could be too. We all got emails from someone. Hey, Jason, great things you're doing, Cavness HR. We, blah blah blah. Here's 2 times to meet tomorrow. Tomorrow? Are you fucking kidding me right now?
Yeah.
Have you lost your fucking mind? Tomorrow?
Yeah. So I always say within
What?
12 months, can we get something on the calendar?
Yeah,
And I'll follow up with you like
yeah.
30 days
Like
before.
send me your calendar link and let me schedule something.
Yeah.
But you have to go and be like, yeah, this is
But
a
it's a
golf.
train, it's a methodology
Mm.
of, oh, don't give them a open slate, pin them down to give them a choice, this or this.
The choice
To
is
try,
the choice is neither.
yeah, it could be neither. And so I always just say, look, I want you to know that it doesn't have to be right away. It's
Yeah,
when it's convenient for
yeah,
you. I'm fine with that. What does that look like?
yeah. I always say anything available in the next 3 weeks. And what I do, and not saying this right or wrong, I'll say any available to talk to you next 2 or 3 weeks. Do you have a schedule that you can send me, or I can send you mine, right? And I
Mhm.
go from there, right?
Yeah, no, that's a fair timeline. It's enough time to say, look, most people are busy the week they're in,
Mm.
and it gives them, time to know, okay, this isn't something you want to talk right now.
Yeah.
It does give me some time to breathe, so you're not trying to press me real hard. So, okay, that seems reasonable.
Or even worse, like the email the very next day. Just follow up to hear back from me, Jason. Dude,
Yeah,
this literally been 14 hours.
yeah. Well, that's the AI thing. That's what happens with these lead gen. Like they have it systematically already programmed out that, okay, on the first day they send this, and the next day there's this, and there's like a cadence of 7 or 10 or 18 emails that are set at different times. And it's like, I haven't even responded to the first one,
Yeah.
and you're already sending me something else. And it's like, yeah, I think it's part of it's cool. And if I was in that market where like the transactional
Yeah.
marketing type of thing would work, I think it would be great.
Yeah.
But I've told all of the lead gen places that if you're not organically, you know, reaching out and understanding of doing the research and understanding about the client, I don't want you blindly sending out emails.
Yeah. All right. So next, I have to go to the bathroom,
Okay.
but I'm gonna ask you a question. You should be able to
Okay.
answer the question while I'm in the bathroom.
Okay.
So next one, I saw on LinkedIn where you went to Salt Lake City a couple weeks ago and visited Maximiliano something something.
Yeah.
I apologize to you, whoever you are, for fucking your name up. I apologize. And it seemed like it was a great meeting, got a lot done. Can you talk about all that right there?
Sure. So Max, we have a pretty good relationship with a company called Code AIT out of Argentina, and Max Emiliano, I think it's Eberwitz, is, and I may have butchered the last name as well, but Max for short. Um, we have been working together on we had an open AI grant that we applied for. We didn't get it, but we kind of made it through a round or two of selection process. And then we've worked on currently working on a client project together. And then we have another different open AI grant that we're working with another friend of ours on a project. And, we've done everything through virtual meetings. And we haven't met each other face to face. And so he said, "Hey, I'm going to be coming to the US and I will, you know, be in Salt Lake City, giving a presentation, which was a really cool uh, product that he has developed with another partner of his. They were at the Roots Tech event in Salt Lake City, presenting a product. Um, and so, yeah, I took the opportunity to fly over there and meet him and be able to see somebody you've talked through virtual for over a year face to face was kind of cool. So um,
So I'm back from
that's
that
that's
excursion.
that's Max. So he's with Coda
Okay.
AIT, which is another technical consulting company that they're really focused more on technical staffing.
Have you been to Argentina?
I have not. I've
So
been
like,
to
it seems like you need to make a road trip to Argentina.
I am. That's going to be the next phase, is to go down there. My wife's from Ecuador, so I've
Okay.
been to South America, but not to Argentina. So I plan on going to Argentina and checking it out. We plan on working closely together. I like their team. They are actually the only staffing company that technical staffing company that I've worked with, that when they've gotten on a job, they actually believe in completing it early and doing over deliver and not it's that whole over promise and under deliver.
Yeah.
Well, they're under promising and over
Mhm.
delivering on everything they touch, and they're very high quality. And so I love their approach, the way they think, the way their developers work, um, their solutions. um, Max and Matthias is the CEO, Max is the CTO of Code AIT, and they run a really good uh, team. They've been in business 7+ years,
Yeah.
so they're further along than we are. We've been in business a couple years, and we're kind of slowly growing methodically, and so we've kind of learned from them and teamed up with them. So yeah, Max was here, and he's really big into AI,
Okay.
a lot of AI stuff.
So how would you deal with this, right? And hopefully you haven't done this yet. Like suppose like so no, no, like Ukraine was really big on software developers. Of course, the war's going on now. I could be wrong. I think Ecuador has a lot of like stuff going on now with it right now. Uh, Haiti, I mean, of course, I don't think Haiti is like software development place to go, but there's lots of stuff going on there. How do you deal with like when you have software developers in a country that have like a lot of political, other stuff going on? Is it like, is
That's
like,
a challenge. I mean,
is like, I don't care what's going on. Finish the fucking code, dude. Or like,
well, I mean, if your project's big enough, if your client's big enough, it would be smart to um, make sure you're taking that into account when you're pulling your team together, right? You're right. There's brilliant developers from every part of the world. Um, I'm not going to say that these developers over here are terrible and these are over good. You're going to find good developers everywhere. You're going to find terrible developers everywhere. And so you do have to take into account, we can't be naive when you outsource, that everything is, the way it is here in the United States. There's other environments you deal with developing countries, and why they appreciate the revenue and they appreciate the work and they do a good job. There's some infrastructure issues, like, do they have internet go out all the time? Is there, how stable, how safe is it? Are they dealing with, are they going to deal with getting robbed or broken into, or, is there civil unrest? Is there war? Obviously our approach is, we want to take care of our clients and our people. And obviously that comes first. If there's a tragedy happening, take care of the tragedy, get the heck out of there, be safe. We'll figure something else out. But um, that's something that I consult with clients in the US that maybe haven't outsourced before, or that are considering it. I mean, I think every company in the US should consider it as a serious option, because they've just spent whatever money they spent during COVID to make their infrastructure so they can have everybody work remotely. So they can't say they don't have the technology anymore. They invested in it. So now get a return on your investment. Now you've made it so that people can remote in. There are safe environments through Azure, AWS, other cloud environments that you can have people remote into those environments. Everything's secure there and everything's safe. It can be HIPAA compliant, all this other stuff. It's worth looking into.
For the clouds like AWS, Azure, Google Cloud, I think Rackspace and some other was, are they basically all the same like compliance stuff, or is one or two of them actually really better than the other one?
They all should have a certain level of security and compliance, and that's what makes them allowed to be in business. We will typically only use AWS and Azure. Those two are the big main two. And we like it because they have the certificates, they have the documentation that we can provide our clients that says, yes, this environment's safe and this has been deployed. They also have, so for our team, when we set up the environment, if we need technical help to set it up in a certain way, we have a client that has certain parameters, we can pull them in and they can help us set it up the right way. And so that's what I like. When you get into smaller cloud environments, they may not have all the support, or they may be pretty a la carte, like you do this and then you need to be in charge of everything else. And they may not have a lot of extra resources. So, but AWS and Azure, when you get into the bigger cloud environments, there's also a cost factor that you have to be aware of.
How does this work, right? Like suppose you have a project you're working on, and let's suppose you have 10 developers, right? And like, let's suppose 10 developers over a 1 month period, they all leave. They all got better paying jobs or whatever reason they left, right? And then you replace them with 10 new developers. How does that transition work, right? Do the new developer just look at the code and say, I got it? Or is it like a training process? Like how does the transition work from like one group of developers to another one?
Well, I can tell you that if a developer leaves in the middle of a project when they weren't slated to leave in the middle of a project, it sucks. It's the worst scenario.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you do? Well, obviously, if they left, it probably wasn't on good terms, because if it's on good terms, then they're going to stick out their contract.
Yeah.
So if they don't, if they get fired or they just decide to do something else and flake out, which happens, what happens? Well, you need to quickly have someone with similar skill or abilities to come in. There is a little bit of them being able to wrap their head around where they're at in the project. But that's a lot of that falls on the project manager of the team of saying, okay, we're going to help get this person up to speed. You have all 10 leave, something.
I mean, they 10 left within a month. Some like got fired, some got better jobs, different
Yeah.
reasons.
If you're on it with staff, we typically, for every technical staff that we provide that gets signed on, we typically try to have 4 or 5 options
So
for
like
that one. So they picked,
it's like a
picked
talent bench,
one. So
like a
yeah,
talent
it's
bench,
a
so to speak.
pool. Yeah. And so they'll be like, okay, 3 others were qualified for this. They selected this one. Okay, this one didn't work out after 6 months. We'll first go back to those 3 that were selected. Hey, are you available to go in and step into this role now that it's here? And I think most developers, it's just the nature of it, is when they come into a project, if it's already going, no matter what role unless they're there from the beginning, there is some wrapping their head around the code where the project's at, and that is your lead tech, your senior developers, and your project manager that's responsible to kind of bring in that new talent and get them up to speed, and then just see how they're, it's based on what they're assigned, making sure their skill levels there, sure they're ramping up with productivity, and just do it as quickly as you can to replace the ones that are out. I would say if in a month or even 2 months you have, or at any time you have 10 developers that are leaving, or there's attrition where they're not completing the contract, that is there's something toxic going on there, whether it's through the consulting company or the project itself, the leadership of the project, the client, the environment they're creating is and so some of it we do regular weekly touch bases with not only the developers that we place, but also the client, and say, is this something that, you know, is working? And if there's a problem, how do we solve the problem?
Yeah.
So we try not to let it just get to the point where the developer wants to leave when we're blindsided, right?
Yeah.
That's just, now maybe some staffing companies do that, but we're more hands-on.
Yeah.
Like, we would like to see where there's an issue and solve that issue before it gets to be a problem where they're walking.
Okay. And you said with your company, the product manager runs everything, right?
That's how we do it on our teams.
Okay.
I mean, as far as our personnel, but it's a collaborative. It depends on how involved the product owner, the
Yeah.
client is. If the client's running the project, well, then they're running the project.
Okay.
But
So let's say the product manager run a project, right? Let's say the product manager, I'm making this all up, right? Product manager is Indiana. 3 developers are Ecuador, 2 in Argentina, 1 in Ukraine, 1 in the Philippines, 1 in India. What kind of training does product manager to make sure like he's collaborative, like respect of all these different cultures, like picking the right time zone, you know, all that kind of stuff?
so we've had something similar. We've had a project where we've had somebody from project manager was in Ecuador. The client was here in the Seattle area. We had our UX UI was in Pakistan. We had Honduras, and Philippines. We had 2 in the Philippines. So you're talking very spread out time zones. So we had to all agree, the team agreed on what would be a good starting point. So you have some of the team that is at the beginning of the day is when the daily stand up is, that they're meeting with the project manager, and the ones in LATAM, it was like the end of their day. So you decide to pick the meeting when everyone can get together at the same time. It's very challenging, and most seasoned project managers and guys that run dev teams in larger organizations probably would have, okay, we have our India, we have our team in that time zone, and we have a team that's in this time zone, and we have somebody leading that team that's basically 24/7.
Yeah.
Right. When this team's sleeping, that team's working, and then there's the project manager.
Which in theory should speed up everything, right?
It should. They just have to have really good communication. They have to make sure they're doing really good notes and documenting and making sure that we've had them working on the same project, so that's been a little bit of a challenge, because we need their documentation. They can't leave their shift until they told everybody what they're doing and make it clear. When you have a whole team that's in one area, then it's different because they communicate and they're assigned a certain part of it, and they just do that part of it. And then you have this team doing this part of it. And you would have probably 2 project managers, 1 project manager, that their time would be half of one time zone, half of the other time zone, so that they're being available to do both. That's one of the things I love about this career path, or this, being in technical consulting. This really depends on where you are in the world. It's so creative and flexible in how you put things together. Just what works for the client, that may not work for the client. The client may be like, look, no, we require, the client could say, look, we don't mind outsourcing, but they need to be all in the United States.
Yeah.
No problem. We can get team from the Midwest, and someone from Florida, someone from New York, someone from Indiana, someone from California. We can put the team together and do that.
So how did you get into being a tech consultant? How did that career path come about for you?
So it was interesting. So a buddy of mine, who used to be a solution architect or person for Capgemini, and I think he's worked at Accenture, and he's going to go to Deloitte. And now he's more in the cybersecurity space. I've always loved technology. I've always loved video games. I've always loved what's the latest thing out. Like when Pong first came out, I was playing it. When Atari first came out, when, Nintendo versus, so the new thing, whatever the new thing is, I'm always, I always like that and always like to be there. What's the new? Always, what's the new? I love sci-fi. I love thinking, what can we do? What's technology going to take us to? And I've been in the infrastructure side, meaning fiber and telecommunications and voice and data network side of things. And I've always said, I want to be on the cutting edge. What's the very front thing that's happening? And if I had a choice to do as a career, that's where I would want to spend a lot of time. And when COVID happened, I switched from working for Comcast Business. I was there for almost 10 years on the enterprise business side. My wife's from Ecuador, and the company I went to let me work from Ecuador. And for me, that was a paradigm shift because I'm like in Ecuador, it's hot. I'm still doing my work, still doing my meetings. I had fiber connection there better than I have here in DuPont. I was like 1 gig down, 1 gig up. It was amazing. And I'm living in Ecuador where my dollar goes way further than it does here in Seattle area. I'm like, this is perfect. If I could work anywhere in the world and make the money that I make and still do my job and be successful, that's what I want to do. How do I do that? And I had several conversations with my friend. Um, he may be watching, Jacob. And he was like, hey, you've wanted to get on this software side, this side of technology instead of the infrastructure side. You're down in Ecuador. There's lots of clients looking for LATAM talent. Why don't you spin something up and make connections? And I'm, I don't know, military training or me just being bullheaded, but I'm always like jumping the deep end and figure it out. So I'm like, that's a good idea. Okay, yeah, let's do that. So I connected with some people and decided the company together. We put a C corp here, we put a C corp down there. Um, we raised some money and kind of got started. But it was learning. We were learning the whole time. I've had a blast these last 2.5 years of putting this together. Um, and that's how it came about. And now I've met some really great people here in the Seattle, the Washington Technology Innovation Association. We became members of that and go to some of those events and connect with uh, people in the blockchain, Web3 community, kind of really seeing what's the next things that we're going to be doing. AI pins coming out, and I'm buying them. The first ones that get it, so I can't wait until April when it comes in. And I want to play with that. So I'm everything like new, and in the way that it can help us live a fuller life. What I mean by that is that we're more effective, efficient, and get more done. That we can get more work done in a shorter period of time that allows us to enjoy everything else in life more. Like if I could get 8 hours of work done in 4, and I could do that, and I could live somewhere where the beach is right over there, and I could be just as effective as somebody who works 8 hours coming into the office every day, dealing with commute, and I can do a better job in a shorter period of time, getting more done, having a better life, be able to experience more of the world. To me, that's the ultimate dream.
I mean, that's good in theory. The problem is you have these old school bosses who are like, "Oh, you only work 4 hours. I'm only going to pay you for 4 hours of time, right?"
Well, there's some coaching involved.
Mhm.
You definitely have to coach up. You definitely have to say, quantify what is the requirement. And so I've always been in an individual contributor, sales, consulting, where I have like a quota. And so, okay, you can do your work, meet your
Yeah,
quota, and then who cares what you do with the rest of your time
yeah,
because you've met what we've asked you
yeah.
to do. And now with technology, all the other stuff you can do, like I work remotely. I'm in DuPont in my home office, 90% of the time.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, we come into the office, a meeting, whatever. Every once in a while, I have somebody local, a client that would want to meet face to face. So I'll go do that, of course. But a majority of the time, I'm working from DuPont.
Yeah.
And in my mind, if I'm in my home doing my work, I would rather be in Ecuador doing the same thing. And it doesn't matter. It is the exact same thing because I'm not in the office and
funny.
it's the same.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It's just distance, but it's still a screen in front. And so, yes, there's old school thinking. There's old school, there's some legal and insurance and other things that have to be considered, but I would be willing to sign a waiver. No problem.
Have you thought about this? I'm sure you have. Our generation went from Pong to AI taking over the world in like what 50 less years, you know? What's it called? Is something like exponential tech curve where like everything doubles every 12 or 18 months, whatever, you know?
Yeah. Matter of fact, I was talking with my parents because I had sent them, I had gotten an update from the humane people about my AI pin and what's coming. So they sent out this email with a link to the latest video and YouTube. And I sent it to my parents. And I remember having a conversation with my grandmother, my dad's mom, who lived to be 99. She was born in like 1912. And I had a conversation with her later in her life of, she was like, man, how much technology's changed in her lifetime. And then I'm thinking, how much technology's changed in my lifetime.
Yeah.
And it's exponentially
Yeah.
getting there to where, yeah, it blows my mind.
I mean, it's exciting and scary at the same time, right?
Super scary. I was talking with somebody when we talk about that and exponential. Two of the grants that OpenAI has put out, one was on governance. And I don't know if you remember, maybe a few years ago, OpenAI and the CEO of OpenAI was going around all the governments of saying, hey, we need your involvement. We need you to pass laws. We need you to govern this. It's not our job to govern this. We're creating it, but you guys need to put some parameters around this. And which I think is very responsible, very responsible. And they were putting money into grants and saying, we're going to give like 10 grants of, we need people to start developing ways and ideas of how we can govern this and put governance in and help AI to be ethical and be used in the right way. That's a benefit to humanity, not something that's harmful. This next set of grants was on like super AI, meaning when AI grows beyond our ability to understand how it came to the decision that it came to. Like, it can permeate so many calculations so fast and so many different factors that there's a way now for us to figure out, okay, they looked at all of this and this is how AI got to this decision. But when it gets so complex that we can't even figure that out, how are we going? It's going to be beyond us. And then in those conversations, the question came up, well, then what parameters are put in place when it becomes self-aware?
Yeah, I know, right?
Because at some point there will be a spark and it will have so much information and signals that it will become self-aware. And now it's like, okay, that's like raising a child.
Yeah.
Or that's like a really smart child. But it's like, okay, what values and what things have you built in to it to guide it to something that's going to be ethical and isn't going to be like, you're inferior, zap, wipe out humanity.
I know, right? I mean,
That's the question.
Or something even more simple, like suppose you have an AI robot that as a cook cooks your meals every day. You say, hey, let's say you call her Mary. Hey, Mary Jane, I want some pork chops and a potato salad and corn. No, Jason, your blood cholesterol is XX. This is you'll be eating salads for the next 20 days and you'll fucking like it. You better override. There's no override when it comes to your health, Jason. What the fuck?
This is true. This could be, a thing. And I think when it's programmed, you can program that in.
Mhm.
There will be a point that it will have the ability to override the programming based on other stuff.
Yeah.
And what do we do then? And I never thought that we would be asking those questions or even have to deal with that in my lifetime. But over the last 5 years, I've changed on that.
Yeah.
And I think in my lifetime, in our lifetime, um, that will be a real question that's going to have to
Yeah.
be answered and dealt with. And I do think, for some people, oh yeah, super scary. But I am encouraged because the powers that be that are creating this AI are also behind the scenes. That's not getting as much publicity as I think it should. Are creating grants and research and how do we ethically build in parameters? How are we doing some of this stuff? And it's not getting the publicity, but they're doing it, and
Yeah.
it is out there, and they are asking the questions, and they are putting things in place that will help. And I think we have great people, great champions of technology. I would say the Washington Technology Innovation Association is very active. Um, I give a shout out to Ari Yu, who's on the Global Blockchain Council, working with state lawmakers to, enact laws that help move this technology forward in a safe and ethical way. Um, there's lots of people here in the local Seattle tech community that are very, very involved.
I know if people talk about AI ethics, I might be wrong, but AI itself does not have good or bad ethics, right? It's the ethics that's coded in them by the coding people, right? It's like, how do we make sure the people making the AI algorithms, you want to call it, or like ethically based, or even I know a lot of HR AI recruiting tools have like this bias, facial bias, voice recognition bias. Like, I don't know how you overcome that, right? Like,
That's we are talking about it. One of our friends and Max and I are working with her. Her name's Leah, who does With Respect. So she approaches DNI with, I think, is a very revolutionary. DNI education and trainings in corporations is very controversial. And we're seeing some lawmakers and some people go away from it just based on how it was implemented. Just wasn't very effective, and it wasn't getting the results that was desired. Leah's got a great book, and she does this with her clients, and she approaches it from mutual respect and teaching mutual respect. And so we're working with her and Max actually on an OpenAI grant proposal. We hope we get some funding to help build in a, the ability to educate companies and people on how to have mutual respect. And if we could integrate that knowledge and that understanding into AI development so that as AI gets self-aware, it's mutually respectful of whatever your religion is,
yeah,
whatever your culture is, whatever, that if you have mutual respect, it cancels out the negative bias that would be there because it overrides that saying, okay, if we have mutual respect, you do have to listen to that person and understand things from their point of view and do it in a very respectful way. So, um,
so I'm gonna put this video real fast. But while I'm doing this,
yeah,
um, so now, do you ever listen to the Lex Fridman podcast?
I do not.
So he's like this data scientist from Ukraine. So he had Sam Altman on the other day, right? And one of the questions he asked Sam was like, when is ChatGPT 5 coming up? He said, sooner than later. So you're saying 2024. No, I'm not saying that sooner than later, right? And he's like, can you tell me anything about what's coming with ChatGPT 5? Well, only thing I say is like, it's a lot of people thought ChatGPT 3 was revolutionary. ChatGPT 4 like did extraordinary things. In my mind, it didn't really do anything. But in my mind, ChatGPT is like 5 is a game changer. So from saying that, another thing, like, if anyone I would trust like doing this is Sam Altman, right? I'm a big fan of his versus some other guy, right? What do you think is going to come with ChatGPT 5? Like, what are your expectations? What do you want from it? Like,
I That's a good question. I think as Chat GPT I would like to see it get more into voice control, get more into being a tool that's developed into like an AI assistant, a digital assistant that will allow us to, like the AI pin is a start of, it's a device that is getting us in the habit of having like a digital self, a digital assistant that we can talk to and say, okay, do this for me, do that for me. And while I'm doing these other things. And I would like to see ChatGPT go more into that. I know having more developer tools, it'd be great that if it was cheaper to develop on. It is fairly cheap now, but you know, you still pay for all the data you use, even if it's just testing and even if it's just research. So it'd be nice if there's like a test environment that you could test theories and test things before you actually produced it and then pay for the production versus, you know, it would be nice if the training or the development environments were cheaper to develop on. Those are things I'd like to see.
All right, so I'm gonna play this video real fast.
Okay.
Hopefully it comes up.
While you're doing that, I'm gonna take a selfie.
Let me backtrack real fast. This is insane right here. Of course, it might just be I making a fake video, but who knows?
Great. Can you explain why you did what you did while you pick up this trash? On the screen right now, where do you think the business is running to go next?
Like this is now what's gonna be like 2 years from now.
Well, sure. Robotics and machines are going to be blowing up.
I look at this.
It-
I look at this. I think we will all be unemployed.
Uh, I don't necessarily.
I agree. That's a good one.
I think it depends on how we.
But for you to finish that, I don't think 9% of Americans realize that that's going on right now. I don't think most Americans don't realize how advanced we are in all this AI robotic stuff.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Well, I was at, gosh, was it 2 years ago? At just a GeekWire, their GeekWire summit that they had here in Seattle, and they had a company that was already in Texas. There is automated semi trucks
Yeah, yeah.
going that there's not a live driver driving.
And so that means
And
250,000 truckers out of job instantly.
Yeah, now they have a driver that has the license that sits in there, but then they are doing the telemetry and they're checking other stuff. So they're riding and not actually driving, and all the sensors have improved enough to allow that. And I guess the reason they started in Texas is because the roads are flat.
Yeah,
The conditions are
less
stable
traffic,
enough that you know, they can do that. But if you, I guess, drive around Texas, there's going to be a lot of driverless semi trucks rolling around. And I think where we're going to see things really take off is when they're creating robots that can dig ditches, that can build skyscrapers,
So
that can do all of that with just a program.
I saw one video where this robot was cleaning bathrooms.
Yeah, I've seen the bathroom one, but I'm saying when you can have a robot that works 24/7, welding, putting steel girders together, building high rises, doing all of that, I think that's where we're going to have some labor issues, because we have, you know, the working class in a lot of these labor jobs. What my hope is that the companies that look to deploy this type of new technology are upskilling their workers to get to be used in a way that they just don't lose their job.
Because there's a dignity in your work, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be a place. I just hope that everybody wakes up and is willing to change, willing to upskill themselves, willing to learn new skills, to stay relevant, to work alongside an automated person that's going to be doing all this work. And otherwise, it's going to be a problem.
Is there a job that AI cannot do, you think? Or can AI potentially do every job there is?
No, there's lots of jobs that AI can't do.
Like what?
Like anything that takes anything right now that takes physical response from a human being, like that we have reasonings and values and empathies that we can deploy in situations.
But
that
can you train AI to do that also?
It's not there yet. The technology
yet.
there. Now, eventually, sure. Eventually, you could have a robot AI that has our personality, that has our empathy, and displays that. But we're quite a ways away from that. I think there's a lot of, you know, I think what the technical gurus that are watching this would say, in theory, yes, we have the ability now to do that. Is it practical? Is it really, we're going to deploy these by the masses? No, it's not practical yet. We're getting there. It's on that track. But I think there's still a lot that makes humans different. And I think the creative, the things that do make us different from AI and different from robots is what we need to lean into, the soft skills. That is where I think we are going to spend more of our time, is developing our soft skills, and that AI and robots won't have. And it's going to take decades for the soft skills to get really dialed in. I think they can get everything else. And that's why we need people that are willing to upskill and build their soft skills to interact in a way that still makes us viable.
Do you think this ever happens? Like, we're posing sometime in the future, you're on a date with someone, you have a good date going good, and you ask, I have to ask, prove to me you're really a human. Like, how do I know you're not a robot? Maybe tech is so advanced, like all this stuff's so advanced, and robots become technically humans, right? Like, think that time's gonna come when a guy or girl's like, hey, I really like you, but I have to, like, prove to me you're not a robot. Like, give me a birth certificate, like, do something, right?
Did you see the movie The Creator?
No.
So it's a Disney movie, The Creator, that was out this last year. That you need to watch it.
Okay.
It's exactly that.
That thing. Okay.
It's human beings with robots, and our robot's an actual entity that is equal to human, and there's a faction of humans that don't like that, and that's similar.
Okay.
You know, I think it comes down to, sure, people can be deceptive, things can be deceptive, but you know, are you going to ask the right questions? Are you going to pay attention?
Yeah.
You know, um, you know, whether it matters or not, you know, sometimes you ask, you know, are you a man or a woman? I
Yeah.
don't know. Like
I know.
anymore, sometimes you don't know.
No, I know, right?
And it's just, what's your preference? What's your, you know, are you asking the right
Mhm.
questions? And, you know, you have these movies like Her and I forget the name of the other one where, is it Joaquin, what's his name? That
Joaquin Phoenix.
something like it. Yeah. That falls in love with the AI, like
Okay.
Alexa,
Yeah,
whatever
I know
that
you're talking
is,
about, yeah.
that movie.
Yeah.
So does it really matter if it's a, you know, do you just want companionship?
Yeah.
Do you want to have just a personality that talks back to you, or
Yeah.
what is it that is important to you? You
Yeah.
know,
Because I
some
think in Japan, I think more men in Japan, hang out with the sex robots than real females now.
really
Yeah.
know about that, but
Yeah.
you know, those are the things that teach their own. I think, you know, that they're,
Yeah.
you know, some people believe that that's wrong. Some people believe
Mhm.
it's right. You know, I think it's above my pay grade.
Interesting time for sure.
Yeah,
So can you talk more about, you talk about the summer, can you talk more about blockchain and Web3?
I can't. And the reason I say that is because I'm learning. I'm an interested
Well, I'm sure you know more than 95% of the
person.
people out there.
I don't know. I'm learning. It's a concept that's very, I still haven't wrapped my head around it because Web3 hasn't actually been
It wasn't the big thing like people like
developed
thought it would
yet.
be.
Like it's there are pieces of it. My understanding that Web3 is kind of like an environment, a new environment. So Web2 is our internet and how we
Yeah.
interact with things now. Web3 is going to be the next evolution of that, and we're not there yet. I think, you know, it's going to be a combination of blockchain, AI, virtual reality. You know, you start seeing these, you know, these different types of glasses that allow 3D imagery or allow you to see things here and touch things in the air and do computing and do things like, instead of at a computer, it's, you have a pair of glasses that you can do some of these things, or you can go to work, and let's say you're in like I think it's bigger in the energy industry, but you're going on an oil rig or you're going onto an energy whatever, and you're inspecting certain things. And I know that there's some of these glasses that they can bring up different schematics and allow them to do some of the work, and it's all virtual, um, kind of a hybrid virtual real, you know, kind of overlay. And so my understanding, Web3 is like a combination of all of that. That's just a new way in how we're dealing with technology and interacting with the internet, and how we do things. We're not there yet. I think the AI pen, AI, blockchain, smart contracts, you know, all of that is part of it, but we're still really premature. And
What is this AI pin you're talking about?
so let me, might be able to send it to you. Um, so it's a pin that it does a lot of cool stuff.
Mhm.
And it is going to be your virtual, it's going to be your like digital assistant. You can play
Okay.
music, you can talk to it,
Okay.
it can translate for you.
Is it like a certain company makes this or?
Yeah, the company is Humane.
Okay.
So I want to send this to you, and you can decide if you want to show a little bit of it.
You gonna email it to me?
I want to email it to you, but I have to find it. Just and I have like a million. No, like, are you ready?
Yeah, what's wherever you want to try next?
So try actually just going to hu.ma
HU.
.ma.ne. Yep. Humane. And N-E. N-E. N is a Nancy, E is a Nova. HU.MA.NE. Yep. And that's the AI pen. And they do have a video.
Is this a pretty new company, or?
Very brand new.
And so the product is the AI pen.
Product is the AI pen. It's created by two, I think, former executives of Apple. It's Imnan and Bethany. They're a husband and wife.
And what's the purpose of having this? Just like a personal assistant in your chest or something, or?
Yeah, it's taken the personal assistant to the next level.
So what's the difference between this and us just using ChatGPT in your phone?
Well, this is all voice. It does take video. It does take photos. It does, yes.
Sunday, March 17th.
This is the video.
First is an update on shipping. The second is an overview of AI Pen. And for the third, Imran's going to tell you a little bit about where we're going next. We recently shared that our final software image was sent to the factory and that AI Pen will begin shipping from the factory at the end of March. Priority orders will start.
How does no one know about this? At least I didn't know about this. Is this for like tech head, so to speak?
I know about it.
But you're a tech head, though. I can guarantee you the average of Joe Blow in America don't know this shit. The guy working 9 to 5 at the, Goodyear tire factory, going home after work and drinking 2 or 3 beers in the dive bar.
About this.
So do you think the AI stuff, do you think it's going to make the divide between haves and have-nots even that bigger,
I think that is the biggest, that's the biggest concern, is that my prediction, not that I have any authority of anything, but my prediction, my concern is this: you have developing countries that are probably 10 to 30 years behind developed countries in their use of technology. And now AI with the developed countries have exponentially developing tech. And I don't think we are too far away from the sci-fi movies where you have the elite tech people living in the sky and everyone else scrounging on the ground for scraps. Because if there aren't efforts to make technology available for all, if there aren't efforts to develop and help developing countries catch up and include as many people as possible in this tech evolution that's happening now, the AI evolution, if it's not looked at from like a holistic approach, including everybody, yeah, you're going to have the have and have nots.
So this is going to be a horrible example, especially what's going on in Haiti right now, but United States and Haiti, right? Like Haiti, I mean, what I remember since the 90s, there were like coups, hurricanes, earthquakes, like the political leaders, gangs. It's never been a good country, so to speak, right? Even though the Dominican Republic is right on the same island, it's not like the thriving, right? But like the United States getting, tech, and like Haiti is like it's a shithole, right? Or like country like North Korea, or like,
Well,
like how do you stop that?
Yeah, well, there's ownership of. I think it's on the countries themselves to make sure they're creating an environment that allows them to move forward. I mean, if they're gonna, unfortunately, in Latin America, corruption is a normal thing.
It's
That's
everywhere.
in most. I mean, corruption is everywhere. We're not saying we're above anything here in the U.S., but as far as governments are concerned, you have corruption on such a crazy level that's just part of normal way things are doing.
Yeah.
That the mindset, there's a reason developing countries are developing for a reason.
It's like an additional tax.
Because they have chosen to not get rid of certain behaviors that allow corruption and crime and things that work against societal inclusion.
Yeah.
I mean, for crying out loud, we're not even in Venezuela. You know, our whole embassy left. Like,
Yeah.
we're like, peace out. We're not dealing with you guys at all. And so how is Venezuela going to even sit at the table with anyone else?
Yeah.
Well, until that government realizes they're not the only thing on the planet,
Hmm.
and they really need to be involved with everyone else to see that this technology is advancing so fast that at some point they aren't even going to be able to integrate because it's going to be so far advanced that the bridge,
I know.
that's my concern, that the bridge between where developing countries are now, their infrastructure and a lot of things that we take for granted that we have that allows us to develop, that gap is going to widen, widen,
Yeah.
widen. And at some point, it's going to be past the point of like, there's no way. This is moving forward so fast that this can't even catch
Yeah,
up.
they have no chance.
I hope, and one of the reasons we decided to start looking into LATAM for developers is to try to help the situation in LATAM and try to improve, you know, tech fields in LATAM and getting more people interested in. I mean, you have India, who has an entire culture centered around everybody learning everything about technology. They have more engineers than anybody, and they're turning out more engineers than anybody. And you have other countries that maybe they have one college that specializes in technology.
Yeah.
So it's just like, come on, guys, catch up. And so that's our goal. I mean, and if you want to get really crazy with, you know, get deeper into the reasons why we started Quantify 360 Solutions is, you know, we are I am extremely concerned about the issue at our southern border. And from the aspect of this, I'm not taking the position that they shouldn't be here. I'm not taking the position to kick them all out and never let them come to the US. What my concern is the reason why they're leaving their home, their country, and what can we do to fix that?
Yeah.
Because you don't see too many Americans trying to go to a different country to live. You don't see,
Unless it's Ecuador.
you don't see, you see go to visit, right? But countries that are developed, they like their country and they stay in their country because they can thrive. They can have a standard of living. They can have a standard of education. They can have hope. And you don't see that in developing countries. And that's what I think that's the big awareness piece that we're trying to address is that, you know, if we spent more, I believe if corporations here in the US spent more time and money fostering relationships with Latin American resources, it would help put more money, more resources, more education, more things going on. And so it would lessen the issue at our southern border and more people that are in Mexico and Latin American countries that are trying to flee, that they would actually have prosperity where they're at. And so they wouldn't necessarily want to flee because they'd be able to support their family where they're at. Like, how many, I know that there are families that send their oldest son or their husband or their father to the border to try to get in the US to make some money to send money back because they can't live very well. That their standard of living, they're struggling. That's what I want to do is to say, look, how can we help, you know, provide jobs there? How can we provide some economic stability there? And I think then the only people you'll see at the southern border are criminals that are trying to flee justice. And then we deal with criminals well. We deal with criminals all day long. I'm not concerned about that. But
this is my thing. The day when people don't want to come here, that's the thing that's when you need to be worried.
true. Like, we're doing something right. There are other countries
I
that
mean,
people go to in
even
Europe.
yeah,
They're doing
even though
stuff
everyone
right.
says we're a fucked up country, this and that, internally, hundreds of thousands of people still want to come here from the country. So we're doing something right.
Yeah. For those people that don't like, that live in the US, that don't like the US, I just encourage them to go live wherever else they want to live and just see what it's like. Now,
It's very different.
I really liked living in Ecuador for 3 months. I loved it. But to live there are things I had to consider that I don't even have to consider here.
Yeah.
Like, sure, we have bad areas. We have areas of crime that if you stumble into at the wrong hour of the night, maybe something bad is going to happen to you. There are areas in Ecuador where you just don't even slow down at the red light
Yeah.
at that time of night.
Yeah.
Because they'll stop you and bad things will happen. Like, you just keep on going.
Yeah.
And I'm like, really? Like, yeah, no, we don't stop here. Like, you got to be kidding me. Like, we are very fortunate. And I think that is wonderful about technology, that if everyone used technology and everyone can actually work from different parts of the world and see what other people have to live, it's going to open your eyes to a lot of issues that are going on that we can help. And we have a lot of waste. We in the US have a lot of waste. And if
All kinds of waste.
all kinds of waste, if we as Quantify 360 Solutions can help a company be more efficient, more effective, and less waste, and more productive, generate more revenue, that means there's more resources for them to do something else and grow and do good. That's what we're passionate about. And if we can get corporations and companies to be more efficient and have extra money, maybe they'll donate to good causes around the world, and maybe they'll have money to do good and partner with other resources in places that need it, that helps ultimately bridge the gap between the haves and the haves not. And that's what we're about at Q360. And we started with focusing just on Latin America, but really we've had developers work with us on different projects that we're partnered with, that we're contracted with, from all over the world.
So I'll go back to this divide again, but let's bring the United States, right?
Mhm.
So let's suppose like there's someone in Seattle, right? Let's suppose they're economically not well off, right? They're kind of poor, maybe they're on welfare, but they're still in Seattle, right? They still have access. Maybe they don't take advantage of access. They have access like all this stuff here, like there's always stuff going on, right? Take that person, we'll say he's a 10th grader, and then let's take a 10th grader and like let's call them Farmville, Iowa, right? It's like they live in a town of 25 people, and that's my farms. There's no tech at all. But this person, like, man, I want to get involved with tech. I can't get it right. Like, how do we fix that? Or is it just is what it is, so to speak?
Well, I do think there's a lot of tech going on in agriculture. So I think there's some pretty cool things happening in the farm community and implementing technology and how they're doing their crops and doing things. But if I think we just have to keep being advocates of, I don't think we should be afraid of technology. I think we should see technology as a tool. And, I believe, I grew up in Indiana, and we had Commodore 64s and doing basic programming to make basic things. Back when I was, so if that was happening in Indiana, I'm pretty sure that whatever schools in Iowa or the Midwest that may be a farming community still probably has computers in schools, and they have access to the internet and they have access to the technology that's around. I think it's bringing awareness to the legislatures. I think it's bringing awareness to the states that this is a real thing and we need to pay attention to it. And you want to be proactive than reactive, because if you're reactive, you're going to have limited options. And that's what I'm just trying to tell people. Of, kids going into college, kids going into high school, elementary school, my kids and my grandkids, I'm like, learn AI, learn ChatGPT, mess with it, download it on your phone, your computer, interact with it, get it to where you understand how it works, and and use it as much as possible as a tool so that you're not like, what is this?
So what grade should we be teaching kids to code? Because it seems now they don't start like maybe junior high or 9th or 10th grade.
I think it should be beginning. It should be like English and coding.
Yeah.
I think it should
Because another
be.
language should be like, do you want to learn Spanish, French, or coding?
Yeah. Now,
you need to learn coding.
I've met a really great lady, actually two, that are in Florida, and she was actually my professor at Eastern Washington University. I started my MBA. I'm still in process, but in my fall semester, fall quarter, she was teaching one of the marketing class, and so we connected, and I saw that she had her own consulting, and then she did AI talks, and so people invite her around to do different presentations on AI, and so we connected, and so we're kind of working together as she does her presentations and speaking engagements about AI, and there's opportunity. Then she reaches out to me and my team, and we'll talk to clients, potential clients, about solving whatever problem they're trying to do. But she's integrated into the Florida school system, and the Florida school system came out with a mandate. She was telling me that K through 12, educators are being encouraged, are being told to create AI education for K through 12, like just to get kids aware of what it is, how to interact with it, how to use it in a constructive way, and what it's about. And that's just with AI. Florida's doing that. I'm sure they're not the only state in the union that's doing this, but
So you're saying Florida man's going to have AI capabilities now?
Florida, they're making it part of their school system. So if you're in kindergarten through, you're going to be learning about what ChatGPT is. And I thought that's pretty cool. I don't know if other places are going to do it, but I think you need to start right away, because it's not a fad.
Oh no,
It's not a flash in the pan.
no.
It's not something, oh, it's going to go away, it's not going to catch on. No, it's here to stay. It's going to change and revolutionize how we interact with everybody and everything. And we saw the AI pin. We saw there are going to be devices. There's going to be headsets. There's going to be things. The future could look something like Ready Player One, combined with something else, where people are walking down the street with these headsets and in this virtual world. But actually, it could get crazy before we, in the future.
Yeah.
It's the skies are the limit. I think it's important to be responsible, engage, and be proactive in upskilling and embracing it, because the more voices, the better outcome we're going to have.
Yeah.
The more people that stick their head in the sand and don't want to participate, then what's going to happen is they're going to wake up one day and aren't even going to be relevant.
No.
And that is going to be a sad day. And we're trying to do everything we can to prepare people. We see that. We're everybody on my team is thinking that way. Everyone we consult with, from a partner standpoint, thinks that way. Max and his team down in Argentina thinks that way. And it's, I think clients here in the US that are looking to advance their digital transformation, advance their company from a technical standpoint, need to talk to technical consulting companies that are similar philosophy that we have, that are thinking about what's the next thing and where are we now and how do we get there, because the solutions are going to be relevant.
So is it safe for me to presume that since you're getting the AI pin, you're going to do the neural link in your brain also?
I don't know about the neural link in the brain. I don't know. There's, it's where do you draw the line?
Yeah.
My son, who's 32, and he's doing great things in the cannabis industry. He said something really profound to me a few weeks ago, and he said, because we're talking about the line, and we're talking about, we actually go to church, and there was this whole the chip and the whole all of this thing, and he goes, you may be fine with the AI pin, But what if a law changes 10 years from now? And now they can use the AI pin that you've already been signed up for, that you've already been using, and now they could flip the script on you.
Exactly.
And now it's something you're already ingrained in doing, and now you're like, oh, okay. Now this thing that wasn't illegal or whatever Big Brother wants
Yep.
to, now it is, and now he's like, you may have already signed something that you're not aware of 10 years from now. And I was like, man, you know what?
Damn.
To think about that for a
Yeah.
minute,
It's scary, right?
I'm like, laws do change
Yeah.
and things do change.
Trust the government.
Yeah. So it's kind of like,
Not.
it's, I told him, I said, I'm just going to go into this thing with my eyes as wide open as possible and not be naive and try to understand what the pitfalls are, what the dangers are, and make sure that I'm approaching. I think everyone should approach new technology responsibly and with caution.
Yes, definitely.
Don't shy away from it, but approach it with caution. Don't be naive and be aware. I know it sucks, but read the fine print. Because we've given Apple free reign to
Apple has
we've given them to use the
everything.
mic, and they're recording and they can hear everything that is on your phone.
Like when everybody knew whatever from Apple, you sign an agreement, it probably in the small print, you give us access to your all your assets, your kids' assets, everything owns now belongs to us,
Yeah. I mean, that was the scare with TikTok, right?
Yeah.
That was the thing with TikTok, not realizing, okay, it's a China company and we've given access to all this stuff. You may want to rethink some things. And I think that was a good lesson.
Yeah.
And I think we should approach it with everything that we do. And
yeah, that thing with TikTok, of course they're spying on us, right? Plus the thing is, are they spying us as the Chinese government? They break it down, but then like Facebook's doing it. Everything spies on us, right? So,
well, that is a good segue into a meeting that I had earlier today with a doctor, Brigitte Panuski, who wrote the book Wealth Care, and was talking about, our individual data sovereignty and how's the AI pin approaching data sovereignty? What's their data sovereignty policy? And I know there's big efforts in blockchain and smart contracts and tokenization of assets of, how do we as individuals control our data and control our information? And how do we keep that from getting into the wrong hands? And there's technologies that can do that. And I think that's what's kind of interesting to me. And I said, well, when I get the fine print on the AI pin, I'll read it. But no, because, I think her idea is that we can own our own data, our health data and all of this stuff, but then we can monetize it in a way that's safe for us, but actually give some important information, especially on healthcare, that could be monetized, that you can actually, that goes into research, that goes into other things that helps inform and better inform, better outcomes in medicines and health practices and things like that. But you actually get paid for it because it's your data and they can't just access it. You go to the doctor and stuff, they take labs and whatever else. That should be your data, not the hospital's data.
Did you see where United Healthcare got hacked? I think they own 80% of personal medical data. They got hacked. That's fucking beyond bad.
Yeah, well, and that's where I think the whole tokenization of assets, and I think smart contracts and protecting your own information is going to be key, because everyone's getting hacked. Like, I don't think there's anything that can say we're hack proof. It's just you're hack proof now.
You can say it all you want to
now, but tomorrow may be different. Yeah, tomorrow may be different. Yeah, and so that's the big thing. I think that we can own our data, control our data, control our information, and secure it in a way that can't be duplicated or used or falsified.
Should it be illegal for people to sell your data?
Should be.
Why come you think it's not?
It's not now, because you sign
the user agreements from Apple.
Yeah, you sign user agreements on everything that's in the fine print, that you know, and you'll see it if you say, if anything ever you an opt out of third party, you know, see the little sign, check this if you
Yeah.
want to opt out of third party marketing or whatever. If you don't check that, you've just given them permission
Yeah.
to sell your information to a third party marketing company that can turn around and sell it to other people to make
Yeah.
money. And unfortunately, most people don't know what that means.
No.
And so they don't check it. And then the information is out there, but then they go back and check it again. The information is still out there.
Yeah.
So are you
Yeah.
sure they're going to do the right thing with it? And then is it going to be prosecuted if they don't use it the right way?
I know, right? And do you really have the legal firepower to go after like Apple or Google or one of these big tech companies? I'm guessing no.
Yeah. And I don't think it may be my naivety, but I don't think Google, Apple, AWS, you know, I don't think these companies are nefarious, and I don't think that
I don't either.
I don't think they're purposely doing things wrong with our data. I think they're doing everything they can to protect it. I think the bad actors in the
Yeah.
world are hacking it and
Yeah.
getting it.
People on the dark
And
web, those
yeah,
kind of places.
those people are, and you know, as fast as technology and AI is changing, so do the cyber threats change daily.
Yeah.
And so it's like, how do you keep up with it? And eventually something's going to get through. And how do you mitigate that damage?
Yeah. So next, you want me to ask you about your T-shirt, "Be a Better Man." Can you talk about be a better man?
Be a better
Be a
human.
better human. My bad. Be a better human.
You know, I just really found this, I like the message. I don't think we get enough positive messaging in t-shirts and media and social media. I don't think there's enough positive affirmations and encouragement. And this company in Bellevue is called Combat Flip Flops. And I haven't met the owner. I don't know the owner. I don't know the people. But I really think their marketing, their head of marketing is kind of ingenious. And I think they're kind of funny. And I think their tagline, if you go to their website, I think like Combat Flip Flops, and I think it says, bad for running, worse for fighting, which I think is hilarious, but it's true. They have a shirt that says, you know, pacifist, but it's passive and then fist. And it says, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And I just think their messaging is very positive. I think their messaging is what we need more of. And so I stumbled across them. I love flip flops. I'm the guy that's going to be in, you know, a t-shirt or no t-shirt with some shorts and flip flops in the beach somewhere. They make great flip flops, very sturdy, very comfortable, and I love them. And then I found these shirts that I was like, oh man, this is a cool message. And so I bought a handful of these shirts, and this is kind of like my Friday wear.
So, Jason, how do you, on a day-to-day basis, be a better human?
You know, I focus big on being a person of integrity, a person that's transparent. I try, you know, I'm not somebody I'm not, and I don't try to be somebody I'm not. And I'm always trying to learn. I'm constantly curious, and I'm constantly trying to improve. So, you know, I don't have a fixed mindset. I have a growth mindset. So I believe I can be better tomorrow than I am today, and better than I was yesterday. And I think that um, has served me well in my approach.
So, follow-up question. Why do you think so many humans are not better? Like, why do you think so many humans like kind of suck, so to speak, right?
Well, I don't think, I think the message in society is just eke by. I think it's just do barely enough. I don't think there is, the message isn't move life forward. The message isn't strive for excellence. The message isn't be better. It's if you're okay, just stay doing that. Like it's a, I see it in a lot of, this is probably going to make a bunch of people angry, but you know, there are a lot of socialist democratic philosophies, and there are some good, but most that I have run across in Latin America, just the whole culture and what's being taught from the government is mediocrity rules, and not trying to do more, work harder, get better, improve, and I think that's what's missing in some of these countries. And if there's one thing that we could bottle here in the US is, you know, I think the American dream. If you can make that a product and sell it around the world, it'd be great, because the American dream is that you can come here with nothing and you can create wealth and you can end life with much. And there's a path and there's an ability to do that here in the US like there isn't in any other country on the planet. And a lot of countries, that's not even possible.
No, it is not.
It is not. You're at where you're
born
at,
that's your
and
ending
that's where
life
you're
at.
dying. No matter how hard you work, no matter what you do, that's where you're at. So it kills any desire to be better. And I'm trying to say, individually, and when I work with my team, I've been lucky enough to find, some great people in Ecuador that don't buy into that. They haven't bought into the Kool-Aid that, they do take two jobs, that they do want to make more money and they do want to see better and they do want to improve their lives, and they're going to work hard to do that. And I think that's the message that needs to get out there. I think we have too much today where people show up to work. The pastor at the church I go to said that in a message, that people show up to work and you should just be applauded because I showed up. Like,
Too many people
I'm
think that
I'm
way.
here, and it's entitlement. And he attributed it to this whole movement of sports where nobody loses, everyone gets a participation thing, and there's no competition anymore. There's no winners and losers, because everyone should be a winner. Everyone should be well. Now, as a kid,
we're
they're
not all
taught
we're not
that.
all special, right? We're not all
Well,
special.
everyone is if they want to work hard, if they want to put in the dedication. But if they don't, then they don't win.
Yeah.
And I think that that's a big part of it. So being better, striving to be better every day, is something that I see less and less of
Yeah.
in the world today.
I said this in my podcast before. Like, I have no proof of this, I have no scientific proof, but this is my experience being in the military, post army jobs, where I'm doing out people I've met, whatever. It's like in every organization, there's 20% who are like, man, I'm getting paid $55,000 a year. I need to prove not only am I worth this, but I need to prove that I'm gonna make this company money above my 55,000. I need to get better. I need to prove stuff. Blah blah blah. Other 80%, they're like, I'm only getting paid 50,000. I only get paid 55,000. And there's an expectation like that they don't try to improve. They do the bare minimum. What happens? The company recognizes the 20% is doing good. They promote them. The other 80%, they stay stuck and they complain. And they file complaints, whatever, right? I just think it's like the 20%, 80%, right? I'm just making that number, so to speak. And one thing with a lot of people, they think, like, it's not nonprofit, right? Even with nonprofits, you got to add value, right? You got to, like, what are you doing to validate this company paying this amount of money, right? Like, you have to do something to, is ROI, like, I think somebody told me, I'm making this up. Of course, somebody told me if Amazon pays 100,000 a year, they expect you to make them $400,000 profit per year, something like that, like, it's not a charity case, right?
Right. No, and you didn't make that up. That is an actual proven statistic, that on average in the workforce, 80% of the work is done by your top 20% of your employees. And the remaining 20% of the work is done by 80% of your employees.
And what companies mess up is that top 20% get burned out, or else they recognize they're not being appreciated. So they leave, And the companies left with the bottom 80% are doing shit, right? And then the companies go to shit.
Yeah. It's a statistic that is pretty standard.
It was crazy.
It is the way that it is. And I think the problem is bigger, because you have people that, you know, are, let's say, middle class, whatever that wage is, wherever part of the country they work, they're middle class. So they've got an education, they're working, they're doing things, but, you know, they're like, yeah, I'd love to, you know, be the CEO of my company, or I'd love to be the executive of my company. I'm never get promoted. But they clock out at 5 o'clock and they don't do any work until 8 a.m. the next day. And you go to your executives, and most people who have a poor mentality don't understand this. They think that if you're an executive, you work 20 hours a week, make, you know, $500,000 a year, and you do nothing. And that's just not true. That's just not true. And
yeah, that's so fucking hilarious.
And those people, unfortunately, just they don't have the bandwidth to do the amount of capacity that these executives are doing. These executives are involved in charities. These executives are involved in out of work activities that are part of work.
They're always on.
Always doing stuff, going to different events, going to different meetings. They're there early, they're late. They may not be in the office, but they're working on their way to the office.
Even they're on vacation,
they're taking stuff. And it's, you know, do you really want that role? Because that's what it takes. Now and everyone's like, oh, you have to have a work-life balance and this and that. And I'm, you know, yeah, you do. I agree with work-life balance. I believe that if the only reason, however, that you need a work-life balance is if you hate your job, because you need to balance that negativity, right? If you're in a job and you're counting the minutes until you're off that day, or if you're working for the weekend, of course, you need a work-life balance because you don't like what you're doing.
Yeah.
But if you actually find a career that you love what you do, I can work 60 hours a week.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm perfectly fine, because, you know, you're not going to have an HR person go to the guy that spends 60 hours at the beach, relaxing and having fun. Stop doing that. You need to have work-life balance. You need to, you know, stop playing so much and work more. So it's a balance. No. You only need a balance as if what you're doing is negative.
Yeah.
So my encouragement is find what you love to do, you're passionate about, and do that, because it never feels like work.
Also, too, so like a lot of people talk about work-life balance. These same people like come to work at 9:15. The work starts at 9 o'clock. They come work at 9:15 with breakfast. They eat a breakfast from 9:50 to 9:45. Then they take a break. Instead of 30-minute lunch, take an hour lunch. You know, they instead of doing the 40-hour work week, maybe 10 hours of work. You know, but you know they need life work balance.
Yeah.
Like for me, people don't realize this. Even this podcast is like part of my business marketing. To me, this is part of my work-life balance, right? Because I meet interesting people. I drink big bourbon, you know, just to meet, you know, hang out with people, you know. So to me, even though it's like job, work-related sort of thing, to me, it's still part of my work-life balance.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing that I think there's misconceptions out there. And I would, in our company, I even take it further, because I believe in unlimited PTO, unlimited time off.
I do too.
But if you love what you do and you're producing, I really don't care. Now there's some old school mentality that says, look, if I'm paying you for 40 hours of work, I want you to work for 40 hours.
Yeah. Like you said, is it work 40 hours or production of 40 hours?
Yeah. So my thing is I'm paying you for 40 hours of production. If you can get that 40 hours done in 20 hours and you work 2 days, I'll take time off, do what you want to do. With the other 3, I don't care. Because if you're responsible enough, now that's the hard part, is finding a diamond in the rough. It is a needle in a haystack for the person that has a very strong work ethic, works hard, loves what they do. You don't have to chase them around and double check things, and they always take the initiative. Finding those people are rare. But if you find those people, you can just say, here's the goal, do that, and we're good. And they're going to hands off, and they're going to make it happen.
So that's an interesting point. What's your take on this? Is there any, well, I'll come back to that in a minute. But now, is there any future tech that really excites you? I know you're probably going to say AI, but like anything specifically within AI that excites you?
Well, I would go to the AI pen. I'm like a kid for Christmas. Like, I can't wait for it to get here, because it's the first step into this a piece that gets us into the idea of having a personal assistant that we can interact with verbally. I'm excited about it because I don't speak another language, but everybody that I work with speaks another language. And so I'm either constantly translating or translating text or whatever back and forth. And this will allow me to push a button, hear what they say, it'll translate it for me, and then I can speak back and it'll translate it and what I said. And I can start having more business conversations, because it's getting into the old, I don't know if it's Star Trek or one of the ones, but just it's a universal translator, right? That it speaks 50 languages and translates 50 languages by hearing it and translating. So I'm eager to see how well that technology is. And if it could get to the point where I can talk to someone fluently in Spanish, have a business conversation in Spanish and not need an interpreter, that'd be awesome.
Well, I'm guessing the answer is yes, but anyone can learn tech, right? 8 to 80. Like, there's no, like, like everyone, like, as much as I would love to dunk a basketball, that shouldn't happen, right? Like, there's certain skills that you need to have, right? Like, just like everyone can be an athlete, everyone can be a singer, but everyone can be a coder, correct?
Yeah, everyone can get involved in technology. I mean, it's your, I think it's the great equalizer. You can be anybody, any race, any sexual orientation, any gender, any whatever. It's your mental capacity to learn it. You want to learn it. And if it's something that excites you. Now, I don't recommend someone be a coder or get into software development that doesn't have the personality for it. It isn't detail oriented. If they're not detail oriented, it's going to be a tough road, because,
That's why I could never be a coder.
I couldn't either. Like, I'm not patient enough to go through like lines of code, but
Like, you want me to go through 10,000 pages of code to find one comma that's supposed to be a period? Get
yeah,
the fuck out of here.
yeah, I can't do that.
I ain't doing that shit.
I don't have the patience. I have all respect for
Oh, yeah.
those that can. So it's definitely a career that's not for
Yeah.
everybody to do it well.
Mhm.
But can you understand the concept?
Yeah.
Can you get your head wrapped around what's happening here? Everyone has the ability to do that. Everybody. And I think it should be open to everybody. I really get frustrated when, we're big champions of women in STEM, especially in Latin America, where it is, I mean, women in the science, technology, engineering, and mathematics fields here in the US is definitely a minority of the total
Yeah.
population. But you go into Latin America and it's almost non-existent.
Yeah.
Like, we'll get 400 resumes
Yeah.
for some positions, and maybe 10 of those will be women.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to interview and look at those 10
Yeah.
first, because there's no difference.
Have you heard of ADA Develops Academy here in Seattle?
I haven't.
So I'll connect you with them. So they're like a coding boot camp, whatever you want to call it, but they're mainly for like females, mostly minority females, right? So like females, so it's like they grants as a nonprofit. So I'll connect you with them. I know it's a lot of like many minority females, like just females in general, right? Try to like bridge that divide, so to speak, right? I think it's the students that get grants or like tuition free, something like someone pays for it. It's a year long, and I know this. Like maybe 6 months ago, they had the 100% placement rate, but then the companies would like take the people on, they like stop doing it, right? So now it's like, so it's not as good as it used to be, so to speak. So I can, that's a pretty good program, I think. So here's one for you.
Yeah.
That's not making up, right? I'm exaggerating. So like 5 years ago, maybe 3 to 5 years ago, they're like, oh man, there's 20 billion developer jobs out here, right? We need new developers. But now if you're a junior developer, man, like life is not good for you, right? Like you're like, it's like you're trying to find jobs. There's like, I know developers, junior developers. Of course, I don't know the skill set, whatever. I only see what they tell me. Like, I'm applying. Like for example, for me, I hired a developer last year, right? And the job description was software developer intern. Had a 250 people, 250 apply. At least 125 were like 5 years of more experience, even though it said junior developer intern, right? Like, how did this like happen so fast, right? Like, and like, if you're a junior developer, like, should you be doing? Of course, they say, put stuff on GitHub, have a portfolio, network. But like, I know so many developers, like, they're like applying. And like,
Well, what we have was it 2022, 2023 of all these layoffs of Twitter and,
yeah,
all the tech companies massive layoffs. You have
yep,
thousands of people being laid off. They're all engineers that now just flooded the US job market with,
yep,
now you have experienced engineers that were making $100 an hour,
yep,
now unemployed. And, but we're still not here's what I would encourage the developers is continue to improve your skill, continue to improve your knowledge, and get really good to separate you from the others, because we aren't in a place where we have too many developers
yeah,
in the US. I think India may have a problem. I think India may be coming to a situation
yeah.
where
Everybody and the
they
mother's
have
a developer over there.
yeah, they have so many engineers that if the world doesn't, if companies shift from outsourcing to India to somewhere else, that could be a problem. And I think because there's so many, and encourage this to, a lot of companies looking for good developers. If you can't find them in your area, like if it's out of budget, look for developers in the middle part of the country.
Oh yeah.
Instead of $150 an hour, you can probably find 45 to
Yeah.
65 bucks an
All the
hour.
great developers are not in the Bay Area, not all in Seattle, not all in Boston. There's great developers in like Indiana, Kentucky, Florida,
Well, you find cost
Texas.
effective,
Cost
and
effective,
you'll
yeah.
find people that know what they're doing in other areas. And I think we've just been so used to, well, you need to come into the office and you need to be here within
Yeah.
driving distance. Well, then now you're limited to,
Yeah.
you're in the most expensive area
Yeah.
for developers. Now, don't get me wrong. There are plenty of developers that are here in the Seattle area that are worth every penny of whatever they're getting paid.
Mhm.
Whether that's 300K, 500K a year, whatever they're getting paid, they're worth it. No problem. Brilliant. Pay them. Don't try to undercut them. Don't take away their job. No problem. But if you're looking to add and you're like, well, we don't have it in the budget to pay $100 to $200 an hour for a developer or two developers, but man, if we could get a developer for 35 to 55 bucks an hour,
Yeah.
that'd be great. Well, give me a call.
Yeah.
Because, teams like us, we can find those all day long here in the US. They don't even have to be
Here's one
outside.
for you. It's like all these companies out there, like they're all of them say, like, there's a lot of companies doing what you do, right? All of them say,
Tons, millions.
they all
We're
say,
not unique.
we use the top 1% developers from Latam, Ukraine. Like, are you serious? All you have the top 1% talent, right? Like, now how can companies say that? Of course they can say what they want to, right? But like,
Well, they can, I think it's Toptal. Toptal says
Toptal,
they're the
Toptal.
top 3%
Yeah.
of the developers. Well, what they do is they take the top 3% of all the resumes that are the top, and then from those, that's what they build their pool from.
Yeah.
Still doesn't mean that, there shouldn't be some testing.
Yeah.
They go through that type of thing.
Yeah.
And again, that is subjective, because what does that mean? The top 3% on what criteria? What
Exactly.
KPIs are you looking at? How are you analyzing this top 3%? Type of 3% and what? Because I can tell you that what I've learned in these short 2.5 years of being on this side of the technology, having a developer with the right attitude that's flexible and that works hard and is just genuinely curious and likes to solve problems and is quick, I'll take that person all day long versus the top 3%. Like that may be the top 70%, top 5, you know, who knows? But it's attitude and longevity that I think is the deal, because in what we do, the issue is, what do you do when the project ends and you don't have another project lined up
that's a great question.
in that in between time?
Yeah.
Well, what a lot of companies, larger consulting companies, they just keep their guy on the bench or their gal on the bench, and they go training or whatever until the next thing comes. That may be 1, 2, 3. Well, that's eating into your profit margin.
Yeah.
If they're sitting there not generating revenue. So, you know, we try to find long-term solutions, long-term projects, and developers that will stick with us long-term.
So what does the developer have to do for you to say, okay, hey, Jason Cavness, I appreciate your efforts, but you're not working out. We got to part ways. What would I have to do to, like?
Well, because we use an agile Scrum methodology, you know, they need to be able to develop. They need to produce the amount of code and progress with the project as it's assigned to them. If they're doing that, they're golden.
Okay.
If they aren't doing that, then that's a problem. If they're slowing down the progress, that's a problem. The other thing could be personality, right? If they're just difficult to get along with, if they're creating a toxic environment on the team. Because one thing I've learned about developers is good developers, most of them are really hypersensitive, and they thrive in the perfect environment. And if the environment isn't perfect for them, it's really challenging to get good productivity out of them. So I think I don't think it's all on the developer. I think it's a shared responsibility of what type of environment is the client creating if the client's managing the project, and making sure that we're helping to coach that environment to be conducive for our developers that we're placing there to be successful, our software engineers to be successful.
Okay. So follow-up question. Like, I have no idea if you're hiring, how your hiring process works. Propose a developer listen to this. Like, I want to come work for Jason, this company, right? What do they have to do? Like, they have to like reach out to you. They have to like send you a portfolio. Like, how does someone like, hey, look at me, I'm a developer, I want to be part of your team?
So we have people reach out to us, connect with us on LinkedIn. They send their resume to info@q360s.com. But when we have a position open for a project, we will open a LinkedIn job posting, and we usually will promote it for a week and then take all of those CVs and resumes that we get throughout that week, and then we'll start qualifying them. And because we take them from all over the world, we just qualify, you know, where they're at, what are their requirements, you know, all of that. You know, we do a code testing. We do a technical interview.
Does the client interview them also, or just only you interview them?
After we've done that and we've narrowed it down to, okay, these developers have been code tested, they've been technical interviewed, maybe even they have a live code challenge that we walk through and see where their skill set is, a little bit fine tune that. Once that's done, then those qualified for the position will go to the client, and the client will say, okay, for this one position, or maybe we have 3 or 4, we interview, and let's try this.
Now, do you ever say, like, suppose a client picks, you know, Jack. Do you ever say, I understand why you picked Jack, but if it was me, I would pick, you know, Susan, based on these factors?
No, because we leave the final decision is the client.
Okay. All right.
The client decides.
You don't try to influence it at all. You just say, like, here's 10 people to interview, and just let me know who you pick.
Yeah. No,
Okay.
we will screen them so they're qualified.
Okay.
So everyone has met the, you know.
So in theory, there's no bad choice for them.
No, the client gives us a detailed job description and skill set description of what they want, and then we get that, and we'll give like 4. If it's for one position, we usually give three. Three that are qualified for that to pick from, that we've already vetted and tested and whatever. And if we work as a staffing partner, let's say we're busy and we don't have the resources to go through that process, we may work with a staffing partner that has the same philosophy, does the same process that we do, and say, hey, we have a client that needs one, whatever, go through your database and go through your process, and they will give us 3 or 4 that meet that criteria. And then we'll reach to the client, say, okay, here's 4, which one do you want to interview? And we want to interview all 4. They'll look it over and they'll decide.
How about the situations? Suppose, like, I'm making this up again. Let's say you have like 5 people in your team working on a client, right? And suppose the product manager comes to you, hey, Jason, I know this client's getting a lot of money, but man, they're straight up jackasses, right? They fucking treat us like shit. They're unreasonable. Like, if it was up to me, I would not work with them again in my life. But it's your company. What do you want to do?
No job, not all jobs are good jobs.
That's very true. Very true.
And ultimately, if my project manager's coming to me saying that, chances are we've heard that from the software engineers as well. Like, they're just not happy on this project. It's not being run well, the client. And that tends to happen more in founder and startup companies that,
Unreasonable expectations.
Yeah, just they're new. They don't understand the process. They think it's one thing when reality is something completely different. And then assumptions. And then when you actually get into the project, it turns out, there's a lot of things that could go into it that could create an environment where, okay, this project isn't worth it.
Let's suppose I'll make this up again. Like, suppose it's a 6-month project. You're 2 months in. You just like refund them all the money they might have paid you, or
I believe the only way that happens is if we as a company didn't do our discovery and do our initial analysis of the project well to begin with. So we would own that.
Okay.
You should never, if you are professional and you know what you're doing, never analyze and propose a solution to a client, and then 2 months afterwards, you want to walk away from it. It's not on the client. It's not on the client at that point. It's on, we didn't do enough to discover and really understand what was the full deal. So you need to have people that have really experienced asking questions, asking direct questions and getting direct answers, and then putting it all in paper in a contract that says, well, this is what we're going to do. And if it falls out of this, then this is how we're going to respond to it, and detail all of that out. If you can do that, you're going to make it through the 6-month project. Now, maybe if you see the 6-month project, this was not a good project for us. We ended up losing it. And we've been in situations like that where, hey, the way we started this thing versus what happened and all the overruns and everything, we're finishing it, but we are passing this on. We're not continuing on with it. We can't continue with this client, or we can't continue with this project because it's just not, it's not in our wheelhouse, or there's a better team that's suited because of new things that came up during the project, or a transition away from what our skill set is, or whatever happens. And usually with founders and with, new startup ideas, things change.
So, Jason, you already talked about your company some. Can you go into more detail about how it got started, what you're focused on now, and your future vision for the company?
Yeah. So I think, so we got started by, in the summer of 21, being able to work from Ecuador. So being able to just experience working from another country. And I've always been kind of entrepreneurial in my approach to things. And so, decided to start a company, and I didn't just arbitrarily start, oh, let's do this. I picked, what, if I was going to start a company, what would it be? Would it be a coffee stand? Would it be a car wash? Would it be a McDonald's franchise? What would it be if I was going to be an entrepreneur and start a company? Well, I love technology. I love everything about technology. I think it's fascinating. I'm curious about it. And so I want to be involved in something technical. I did go to school at the Art Institute of Seattle for 3D computer animation, web design. So I enjoy, you know, that side of it. And so I thought, you know, AI is coming around. I feel like there's some social issues going on in the world now that I'm seeing LATAM from an Ecuador standpoint. I could help and provide a solution. I've been doing consulting in one way, shape, or form for 30 years. And I've built a reputation of being able to do thorough discovery, ask the tough questions, and see the bigger picture, and build trust with my clients. And so I felt, okay, let me take that, what I know I'm good at. I'm not good at coding. I love technology. I love everything about it. I am really good at solving problems. I'm really good at understanding the client's problems and coming up with solutions that would solve that problem that meets what the client's looking for. So based on that, technical consulting, it's flexible enough. I can do it from anywhere. I can get internet access in the world. And it allows me to work with people from all over the world. And I love that. Our vision is to, you know, like I said, we raised money initially. You know, we ignorantly, we started in the wrong direction. After the first year, we made some adjustments, and this is a long-term play for us. So this vision isn't okay, we got to reach X profitability by this time or we're shutting our doors. This is an ongoing thing that I'm going to keep doing this until I die. And so just building quality, keep moving forward, keep looking for opportunities to help. We're not trying to sell a solution. We're trying to find opportunities where we can come in and work with the client to achieve what they're looking for. And not all clients are good clients, so we're not just trying to take on the world. I mean, I get solicited every day by lead gen places and other places that want to do that. And I'm like, you know, it's great that what you do, but we don't have that capacity. Like if really we paid you to do a 6-month campaign to generate leads for us, we would be buried. Like, because we're a small team. I want to make sure that as we grow, we're growing methodically. We're adding quality, we're improving. I don't want us to grow too fast and then our quality stinks. We're creating bad experiences for the client. We're turning out bad projects. I would rather just do one successful project at a time. You know, we had 3 projects going at one time, and, you know, that's fine. But, you know, maybe in a couple years, or maybe in a year, we'll combine with another company that's been a little bit bigger, still doing the same thing, but doing it at a bigger scale and help more people. So that's the vision, I think.
So you went to Evergreen College, right?
I did.
So I think perception of most people, including me, is like Evergreen College, no grades. I'm like, man, no grades. So I have to do no work. I just fucking get drunk all day and party. I need to go to school, right? But I'm pretty sure it's not like that, right? Can you explain like the no grade concept? You have to like turn papers in or something like that, or you have to analyze yourself or something to grade yourself, right? It seems so like lefty, left liberal, you know, hokey pokey, unicorn rainbows, you know.
It's a lot of that. No question. It is an extremely liberal, and just for the viewers, you know, I'm right of center. I'm not extreme right, but I'm right of center. But it is a very, very liberal, far left university. And I will say that I've learned the most in life from attending there. Because one thing I attribute Evergreen to is that they have the Olympia campus and they have the Tacoma Hilltop campus.
I didn't know about Tacoma Hilltop campus.
So
I didn't know about that.
So you have, so the Evergreen Olympia, I would say, is more your greener, hippie, liberal, there's a lot more dealing with nature and programs that deal with that there. When you get into the Hilltop, you're dealing with inner city urban issues, and it from a very social viewpoint, socialist viewpoint, very left viewpoint. And the nice thing is I'm coming in with my right of center thinking, and we are taught to deliberate and discuss and value everybody's viewpoint. So I'm able to be in a civil, like all of the discussions we had, it was civil. We could all express our opinions if it was very different from what was going on in the room. So everyone could share their own opinions. We learned to look at things from different viewpoints, and accept different people's viewpoints to things. And so I found that very valuable. And it changed it made me a better listener. It made me a better person, and not tuning people out that maybe look different than me or have a different background than me. And it was amazing. No grades. Yes. Now they can convert your transcript to grades if you're going to another university.
I heard it
requires
I heard
that.
it's hard to go get into like other master's degree programs because of no grades.
No, you can do that, and they'll give you a grade based on, because you have to, everything is like a write-up.
Yeah.
So your grade is a write-up of what you've learned, and your professor what they believe you've learned based on the work you've turned in. So there's definitely work. There's definitely quizzes. There's definitely tests. There's definitely projects that you have to do.
So no partying 24/7.
You can, and you can really show up, and it's one of those schools that you get out of it what you put into it. So if you want a very shallow, just a degree to hang on the wall and you know nothing, you can be that person, and you can put very little effort in and still pass and still get a degree. And I think if I would have went there right out of high school, that's probably what I would have ended up with. But because I went there later in life, and I was an adult that was working, and I was going to school at night, it was important for me to really learn what I was going to school for. And so I was able to you can get a very deep education, go very deep with things if you apply yourself. And that's what I liked about Evergreen.
So is it safe to say you're pretty happy with your experience there?
Yeah, I would recommend Evergreen to any student that has a thirst for knowledge, that wants to explore and really push the envelope of their learning. If you need a lot of rigid guidelines and grades, and that's what you need, Evergreen's not for you.
Are you an active alumni with them?
I'm an alumni. I'm not an active alumni.
Okay.
But I have nothing negative to say about Evergreen, because it's the first experience where I, as a right of center political belief and a Christian person, could go and have conversations with someone who's, in the gay, lesbian, trans community, non-gender specific, whatever. They have clubs and groups for everything under the sun. And we can sit and talk about an issue, and we can listen to everybody's viewpoint and walk away from it better because of it.
Why do you think y'all could do that Evergreen, but then like everywhere else in America, that shit ain't happening, right? Everywhere else, they're cussing people out, the uncivil, like my way or the highway. Why do you think Evergreen was so conducive to that?
Well, I think the faculty are very, it's taught that. I mean, they're saying, look, this is what we do. And at the beginning of every class, the beginning of every semester, beginning of every, it's really ingrained in the professors, that are there of saying, here's how we're going to conduct our class, and here's how we're going to conduct our seminars, and here's what we're going to discuss. We want to hear everybody's feedback on this or that or the other. And so they don't typically just let you like sit back and do nothing. And they encourage you to share what you really think. And even if it's controversial, even if it's completely against whatever was being talked about. And I think that's what America's about. And it's in a school environment and it's moderated, right? So it's civil, and it's, things, maybe a student, whatever, get really heated about something. And, the professor will kind of tone it down. Like, look, you're passionate about that. That's great. Share your viewpoint, but it's okay that other people believe differently. And it's constantly reinforced. So, that's your education experience. And that was my experience. And I went to both 2 years or a year and a half at the Olympia campus. And then I finished my last 2 quarters at the Tacoma Hilltop online. And the experiences were both different, but the same in the sense that it was okay. I didn't feel, even though I was in the minority of my political beliefs and being more conservative versus everyone else's opinion on social issues or whatever we were discussing, I was still respected, and they still heard my viewpoint, and I respected them and I heard their viewpoint. And I was able to walk away from that with a different understanding of the situation.
Do you think going to Evergreen made you more liberal, so to speak? Like, suppose you're like right at center. You think maybe I draw you like closer to center by being there?
I don't think I don't think it like converted me into like, oh, now I'm liberal thinking. I think I'm someone who's always kind of been in that middle 50%, the 25% on the
Yeah.
left, 20% on the right. I've always been in that camp.
Yeah.
Some things I'll be on the liberal side, some things will be but I'm never going to be on the extremes, because the extremes don't allow for anything different. And that's what I don't agree with. I think we're a better species, we're a better humanity when we embrace everyone and try to understand things from their point of view. It helped me in my consulting and sales career as a account executive at the different levels that I've been, and now I'm at strategic, a higher level. You listen more.
Yeah.
You try to see things from other people's perspective.
Too many people listen to answer, not to understand.
Yeah. And now the narrative is just, if you disagree with me, I shut you down, I tune you out, I don't want to hear what you have to say. And that's not good for anybody.
What kills me is like, suppose you're like, you have someone on the other side, right? And you're talking about 10 things. The person opposite side agrees on 9 of your 10 things, right? But because they don't agree on the 10th thing, you're like, oh no, you want to destroy them. Like, they agree with 9 things, right? I understand that 10 things like the most important thing, but damn, they agree with 9 things. Like, take that victory.
Yeah.
And I mean, my thing is like, they agree on 9 things. Odds are in the future, they'll probably come along the 10th thing, right? But no, they don't want to destroy them, like talk bad about them. Like, I never get that mentality.
It's a all or nothing, I think, mentality. It's not a mentality of tolerance. It's not a mentality of saying, okay, we can agree to disagree. I mean, I mean, it flies in the face of, to me, what I joined the military for is to fight and defend the freedoms of this country. That if you're a US citizen, and even if you believe the exact opposite of what I believe, the thing that makes America great is that we can live in the same area, and you can be in your house and believe what you believe, and I can be in my house and believe what I believe.
Exactly.
And we can live peacefully, and we both can live lives of harmony, but believe completely different things.
Exactly.
I think that is what makes America great. And I'm not mad if people disagree with me. I'm not mad if they believe the opposite. I think that's what America stands for. And I think the people in the movements, even if they're minority based, that are preaching a message that's different from that, I really struggle if why they're not speaking American.
Yeah.
They're not talking about America, because I see America as, you could take somebody from every community that believes strongly in their community, equally strongly for their community. So Latino power, Black power, whatever community you're from, and everyone could go to a barbecue, have a meal, have a conversation, express who they are, and go home at the end of the day and understand, oh, I learned about this culture, I learned about that culture, and it's okay.
Yeah, I agree.
That's to me what America's about. And we're
So
striving away from that.
So
now.
next question. So next question, if you're of Evergreen College, don't come at me. This is kind of a joke, you know. But like, how do y'all pick classes, right? Is it like, okay, I can pick Tree Hugger 101. I can pick, you know, how to be part of the PETA leadership nonprofit, climate change 2001. Like, I'm not making
Yeah.
that up, of course, you know, but how's the class selection pick if there's no grades?
It is, they have a thing called seminar, and they have it's kind of like a theme. And then there are different classes that are different aspects of that theme. And then there's one time where everyone gets together holistically, and there's like a speaker or a keynote speaker. There'll be someone that talks about a topic, and then everyone can kind of weigh in or give feedback or hear something that has to do sometimes with that topic of the overarching theme. And so, like, for an example, like one of my classes was public data and public health or something like that. It had to do with public health initiatives, but it was from a like science data perspective. And so it's interesting because it's like, okay, public health, but then how does this one aspect of it overlay over public health? And we had to pick certain projects that you use this and had these resources to understand public health or address certain issues or certain topics. They had statistics classes. They had, a reading class where you're reading, several classics during that, and you're reading it like 3 times and talking about it. So, I mean, it has there's regular classes, but it depends on what your emphasis is, where you want to spend your time. Mine was public relations and political science. And so I actually, when I was at in 2009, 2010, I was at the Olympia campus for that part, and I was part of the legislative internship program. So I worked in the Senate, and for that session, 2010 session, Senator Tim Sheldon's office. So I got to see and work in a senator's office and deal with case studies and help constituents with this issue or that issue, see how our state government works. That was cool. It was definitely a cool experience.
So Jason, is there anything I should have asked you that I haven't, or anything else you want to talk about?
No, I think we've covered, man. This has been kind of a long, good session, but yeah, this has been a good time.
Nice. Is there, you give a lot of value, we talk about a lot of things, but do you have any last minute wisdom or advice or anything you want to talk about?
No, I'd actually, really like to just thank you for this opportunity. I think, what you're doing here and connecting founders and in this area, I think it's a great thing. I look forward to seeing, CavnessHR continue to grow and to do great things. And it's nice to have founders, looking out for each other and trying to pull that community closer together. And, I would say that if you're a founder and you want to be a founder and you're of anything and you're in the greater Seattle area, I'd say reach out to Jason or myself, and we'd be happy to help you and point you in the right direction, and get you connected with different organizations or groups that can help you be successful.
Thanks, Jason. So Jason, can you share your social media so people can reach out to you?
On LinkedIn, that's it. That's all I
Okay.
have.
Okay.
But you want to put it on the screen?
I'll just put it in the show notes.
Okay. Can you do that from your LinkedIn, or
Yeah.
how do I get it to you?
You just want to share your LinkedIn profile, right?
Just the LinkedIn
Yeah, I can get
profile.
it there. And
That's the best way, because I think on my LinkedIn, I just got to double check, but I think I have the internet in. Not the fabulous best.
yeah.
I think I have for sure the email address is there. There may even my phone number, but
Okay.
you'll be able, from the profile, you'll be able to get to our website. You'll be able to get something to me.
Because you actually have a social media manager for your company, right?
We have, a part-time. We contract a part-time that does our social media. We don't do regular posts. We have 3 posts. We loaded one today.
But if I asked you this question, would you give me like 20,000 social media places? TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, blah, blah, blah.
No, LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, okay.
That's all we do. I mean, I guess we have an Instagram and a Facebook.
Yeah.
That there is a thing where we post it, and it posts all 3.
Yeah.
I'm only on LinkedIn because
Okay.
I use LinkedIn Sales Navigator,
Okay.
and it connects with our CRM.
Okay.
But LinkedIn is where I'm at.
All right. Hey, Jason, thanks for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
And to our listeners, thank you for your time as well. Remember to be great every day.